Holy crap.
People persist in doubting the evidence.
Don't run and hide. Don't be afraid. Don't turn away any longer. The truth will set you free.
You're listening to Jimmy Church, Fade to Black.
All of our efforts towards
And now, your host, the captain of conspiracy, the prince of paranormal. This ain't your daddy's radio network show. This is Jimmy Church, Fade to Black.
All right. How are you? Yeah. All right, let's do this. Fade to Black. Bespoke radio for the masses. Today is Tuesday, February 24th. 55 days into the new year. 310 days left. What is going on, everyone? Welcome to everybody listening to all around the world. Listening all around the world, all across the United States, hither and thither, to and fro, back and forth, up and down, east and west, north and south, far and near. Did I get that right? Welcome to everyone listening. This is Fade to Black. We are live from the truthfunders.com studios right here in Burbank, California. Do you have a book, expedition, invention, or paranormal documentary you need to get funded? Go to truthfunders.com. Truth Funders, the #1 source of backing your project into the fringe. Go there now. Truthfunders.com. I actually spent some time over there today, poking around, seeing what's good, what's fresh, what's cool. All right. Tonight, Laura Eisenhower will be with us. Excited. Laura Eisenhower. Got so much stuff to talk about tonight. It's going to be great. All right. For KJCR and the Game Changer Network, I am your oh so humble host, Jimmy Church. Big salute to the proud men and women in uniform all around the world, protecting our right for freedom of speech. For without them, there is no me, there is no you, there is no us, and you could not hear me right now. I really need you to think about that for a second. Forget all about imperialism, military might taking over the... It's not about that. And if you can't dig it, go to North Korea. Go to Syria. Go hang out there. And you know what I'm saying. All right, let's go. Have you gotten your Faders gear, by the way? Go to www.faders.org. Shopfaders.org is the other site. Go to faders.org. Get your Faders gear. Coffee mugs, t-shirts, tank tops. Become a Fader-Not today. It's free. It's fun. Become a Fader-Not. That's what you want to do. You want to join this revolution that is sweeping the country, spreading around the world. Do you want to be part of that? You do. You want to be a Fader-Not. I'm going to ask Laura Eisenhower tonight if she wants to be a Fader-Not. I think I was watching Twitter before the show. I think she's an honorary Fader-Not. She doesn't have a choice. She does not. The Studio Dome SD1 Bluetooth speaker promo is still going on. Thank you for that support, by the way. It all goes to a good cause. Trust me. And all that's left, anything that's left, they shave it off the top, and Studio Dome puts it right back to us. So think about that. You're supporting the show. Just go to jimmychurchradio.com. Go to the website. You know what to do. Click on the banner. Go and get yourself a Studio Dome Bluetooth speaker. Voice activated. Comes with a really cool USB antenna. Nice carry pouch. and it technically is a weapon that you could ward off zombies with. You just clunk somebody in the head with this. I'm holding it in my hand right now, as I do every night when I talk about it. I just pick it up. I'm amazed by this thing. It just sounds amazing. Go get yourself one. Enter promo code Jimmy, Jimmy. Simple enough. Get $40 off the list price of $99.99. That's $59.99 and free shipping. Contact in the Desert, coming up May 29th through the 31st. Joshua Tree, California. Laura Eisenhower is going to be there. Are you going to be there? Of course you are. Now, we're giving away tickets. Tomorrow night, the first run of winners is going to be gone through. Excited about that. Did you enter? Go to jimmychurchradio.com. Go to the website right now. Click on the link. It's right there on the homepage. Go over, get landed, and enter. All right, May 29th through the 31st. Richard Dolan, Eric Von Daniken, George Norrie, Michael Tellinger, Laura Eisenhower, John Anthony West, Mike Barra, myself. I could keep going down the list. It's amazing what they've got going on out there. And if you're ever going to want to go to the Woodstock of events like this is the one. All right, it is cool. Campground. It's going to be in Joshua Tree in May 29th, 31st. And you just want to be there. We're going to hang out. We're going to broadcast live that Friday, May 29th. We're going to have 12 authors, researchers that you know and love, and we'll crank them through the show. You're going to be able to see this show broadcast. And then after the broadcast, hang out, meet everybody in person. It's going to be really cool. Bring your stuff. You want it autographed? Bring it. It's going to be a good time. And then after that, of course, we're going to go and have a Fade or Not party after that, just like we did last year. So you're going to want to come hang out with us. Go and enter free tickets, weekend pass right now. Contact in the Desert, jimmychurchradio.com. Go and do it. All right. Let's see. Where are we at? Okay. I was going to hold this off, but I need to make an announcement to our Fade or Not family. We have lost one of our own. Star 6 passed away back in January. He has moved on to another star system. His real name, Star 6's real name, was Dwayne DeLongchamps. And he had breathing problems and wound up in the hospital back in January. They had him on life support, but he didn't make it. He did not make it. He passed away on January 7th, 2015. And if anybody knows Dwayne, Star 6, please contact us here, okay? And there's some other information we'd like to pass on to you. All right, Star 6 is moved on to another adventure. And I'm sure he is listening to us right now. All right. There you go. It took the wind out of my sails before the show, and he'll be missed. Okay, but let's move on. The show must go on. Today, let's get it cracking. Let's get it cracking for Star 6. Today, actor Billy Zane is 49 years old, and before you... I know. See, I do this every night. It'll pop up in Twitter. What are you doing? Why would you mention Billy Zane? Why would I mention Billy Zane? Because he's Billy Zane. Billy Zane was in Zoolander. That's how you make the list. Billy Zane. Yeah, think about that. When he's old and retired, you know, he's 71 and he's at the Actors Old People's Home here in Burbank, of which there is one, by the way. Sitting around playing pinochle, dominoes, and they're all talking about the movies they've been in, and old Billy cranks out, well, I was in Zoolander. Well, you know, the conversation stops, doesn't it? Zoolander was that great, and Billy Zane slayed in that movie. Billy Zane, today, 49 years old. Also today, actor Edward James Olmos, 68 years old. You know why he makes the list. Blade Runner. End of story. He told me one time, he said he actually had to learn that language. That was a real language that he spoke in the movie. And if I remember correctly, he said it was some kind of weird, like Turkish or something. It was a while ago when he told me about that. But Edward James Olmos today, happy birthday, 68. Also today, and I'm saying this loosely, guitarist George, loosely guitarist, or is he a singer? See, if I said singer, it would be loosely too as well. George Thorogood is 65. Never thought he was a guitar player. He's more like a guitar stand with a pulse. Not really much of a singer, but a pretty good entertainer. And I guess, a couple of hits. Anyway, 65 years old. And also today, actor Barry Bostwick is 70. You guys know who Barry Bostwick is? Should I wait for the 10-second delay to hit? Who is Barry Bostwick? Let's see who can pop this up first without going to Google. Don't Google Barry Bostwick. That's just lame. Who is Barry Bostwick? Come on. Who is Barry Bostwick? Time is up. I thought it would pop up faster than that. Method just said R.I.P. Star 6. Raise your cups in a toast. Yeah, let's go Beckley Tepe. Let's go Beckley Tepe Star. All right. Nobody got Barry Bostwick, huh? Barry Bostwick played Brad in Rocky Horror Picture Show. Ed, I knew you would come in. All right. He probably Googled. Nah, Ed's smart. Played Brad Majors in Rocky Horror Picture Show. And I'll tell you a funny thing. When I was going to see The Matrix when The Matrix was released, like the opening night in Sherman Oaks, and I'm in line, and my friend that I'm with, he turns to me and he goes, "Dude, Barry Bostwick is standing behind us in line," and he heard us. And I turn around and I go, "Brad," and he didn't dig it. He didn't dig it, man. He did not play. It was kind of funny. He was cool, but he gave us that look. So anyway, Barry Bostwick, 70 years old today. Happy birthday, Barry. Our dead guy's birthday today is, we can all pause today. We can pause. Steve Jobs would have been 55, or he died at the age of 55. 1955 to 2011. Yeah, he would have been 55. I did my math earlier, put it in the notes, and forgot what I did. He led the personal computer revolution, as we all know, by co-founding Apple with Steve Wozniak in his parents' garage. But one of the things that you may not know about Steve Jobs, his parents gave him up for adoption. Yeah, that's right. They gave him up for adoption. He was adopted. His adopted family was Jobs. That's right. That was their name, Jobs. 10 months later, they had a daughter who became the novelist Mona Simpson. That's his real sister from his real family, his real parents. His official cause of death was respiratory arrest, but medical experts believed it was linked to his pancreas tumor that he had. He would be 60, according to status unknown. Yes, 1955 to 2015. 2011, age 55. There you go. Yes. Okay, my math was correct. Thank you, status, for that. Steve Jobs adopted. Wow. Kind of blew me away. All right. Oh, man, what a day today. So move on. Go Beckley Tepe to star 6. You can follow us on Twitter at JChurchRadio, Facebook, which is jimmychurchradio.com. Easy enough to do. All the links are on the website. Also, YouTube. By the way, we blew past 1 million views. Yeah, it's pretty cool. We did that last week, and it's pretty rowdy to go to our YouTube channel and see that 1 million number up there. And that 1 million is just from this show. Every view, every 1 million 1 million clicks and 1 million listens to this show. You can go do that. The YouTube channel is Fade to Black. Go and subscribe, okay? Tonight, Laura Eisenhower. Going to be taking your calls too. 323-825-5045. You can Skype in Fade to Black 14. You can email throughout the show. You know what to do. Jimmy at jimmychurchradio.com. You can go to the contact page too as well. Getting a lot of yahoos on the contact page. I think we're gonna kick that up a security level. So all of you trolls out there from that fabled website, all 20 of you will not be emailing anymore. There you go. Laura Eisenhower tonight. Excited. Let's take that first break. Got to pay the bills. When I come back, we will have all of the news that you know nothing about. This is Fade to Black, bespoke radio for the masses on the Game Changer Network. Tune in, Spreaker, TalkStream Live. If you're listening on TalkStream Live right now, go and click. If you're not listening on TalkStream Live, go and click on TalkStream Live. Kick up our ratings. Make us look good. You know what to do. This is Fade to Black. I'm your host, Jimmy Church. We'll be back with all the news you know nothing about right after this. Stay with us.
You're listening to Jimmy Church, Fade to Black.
What's up, revolutionaries? It's me, Jimmy Church. Do you have an IRS or state tax issue? Well, I did, and I called national tax experts. My problems were fixed, done, fini, and man, I gotta tell you, it was a relief. National tax experts are a recognized tax office that services clients in all 50 states. Doesn't matter where you live. Give them a call. I'm telling you, they take the time to understand each and every client's individual financial status as well as their financial goals. And that's exactly what you need, my brother, when you're taking on the evil 3-letter. So, seriously, give them a call today at 1-877-909-5444. Again, 1-877-909-5444. Or go check out their website, www.nattaxexperts.com. That's NATTAXEXPERTS.com. Tell them Jimmy sent you.
This is KJCR at JimmyChurchRadio.com.
All right, welcome back, Fade to Black. Bespoke radio for the masses. I'm your host, Jimmy Church. Tonight, Laura Eisenhower. She'll be with us at the bottom of the hour. Taking your calls in the second segment, 323-825-5045. You can Skype in, Fade to Black 14, the number 14. Shoot me an email to Jimmy at jimmychurchradio.com. Also, you can go and follow us right now on Twitter at JChurchRadio. Come hang out in the sandbox, become a Fade or Not. Hashtag F2B is our tweet deck onslaught. Come hang out with us. It's really cool. Any questions for myself or Laura during the show, anything that you need to say, you can also hashtag F2BQ. Very simple. Come hang out with us at JChurchRadio. All right. The news you know nothing about. The U.S. State Department and FBI today announced a $3 million reward for information leading to the arrest or conviction of Russian national Evgeny Bogachev, the highest bounty U.S. authorities have ever offered in a cyber case. He's a hacker. Oh, yeah. The Federal Bureau of Investigation also issued a wanted poster for Bogachev, who is charged in the United States with running a computer attack network called Game Over Zeus that allegedly stole more than $100 million from online bank accounts. Never going to find this guy. He's on an island in Fiji. Bogachev has been charged by federal authorities in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania with conspiracy, computer hacking, wire fraud, bank fraud, and money laundering in connection with his alleged role as administrator of Game Over Zeus. He also faces federal bank fraud conspiracy charges in Omaha, Nebraska, related to his alleged involvement in an earlier variant of Zeus malware known as Zabber Juice. Bureau officials said that they believe Bogachev was still in Russia. He could not be immediately reached for comment. This is in the statement. Joseph Demarest, head of the FBI Cybercrime Division, said the agency is aware of 60 different cyber threat groups linked to nation states. He did not identify which countries would deliver, and he didn't go any further in naming any states. I thought that was interesting. Whatever happened in North Korea? This Bill O'Reilly stuff is out of control, by the way. Today, he used archival footage on Monday, yesterday, to try and end, his statement was today, to try and end a dispute over claims that he made about his time covering the Falklands War. O'Reilly's latest rebuttal to a report published by Mother Jones magazine focused on a protest he covered in Buenos Aires for CBS News at the conclusion of the 1982 conflict between Argentina and Britain. At issue, O'Reilly has made several references over the years to being in a war zone and a combat situation. These are quotes from O'Reilly. Since he and most reporters covered the war from Buenos Aires, the question was whether a protest there fit those descriptions. In previous accounts, O'Reilly has also said that many were killed in the protest. Now, I've seen everybody coming out and counteracting these claims, saying that there were rubber bullets that were shot over the heads of protesters. O'Reilly was saying that people were felled all around him and carried off and thrown into trucks and ambulances, and it was bloodied and mayhem. Well, man, now that Brian Williams has gone down, you better have your ducks in a row. If you're going to be in that kind of position, and you're going to make those kind of statements about war zones and things, you better be telling the truth. O'Reilly is the number one cat over at Fox. He says he's not going down without a fight. All right? And the quote from him and the local reportage was that there were fatalities. We have not been able to say how many, all right, but I believe there were, end quote. Marijuana smokers now have a new place to, go. That's right. Alaska is now the third state to officially okay marijuana use, According to Colorado's lead, voters passed the Alaska marijuana legalization ballot measure in November. Legalization became official today, which means that now the use of marijuana is legal for persons over the age of 21 years. There are limits to this law. Of course, you may legally possess 1 ounce, and you can grow and cultivate 4 ounces in your home. Then there's the fact that the law isn't fully implemented yet. The regulatory structure allowing for entrepreneurs to set up shops like those found in Colorado is still in the works. So right now, no one can legally make a living selling the drug. Not to mention that, under federal law, marijuana is classified as a Schedule I narcotic, as we all know, and this still makes it a federal crime. A big hole, I don't know if you've heard anything about this. This is nuts. A big hole in the ground was discovered near a venue for the 2015 Pan America Games in Toronto. It has totally stumped authorities looking into it. The mysterious tunnel measured more than 6 feet in height, nearly 3 feet in width, and about 33 feet in length, according to Toronto Police Deputy Chief Mark Saunders, who told reporters today. Plywood walls were reinforced with wooden supports. The tunnel was 10 feet underground with a ladder leading down to the chamber. A rosary with a Remembrance Day poppy hung from a nail on the wall. Remembrance Day honors Canadian veterans who died in combat. Nothing so far suggests criminal activity or terrorist intent, but the discovery of the tunnel, which was made by a conservation officer last month but disclosed today, comes amid heightened security concerns about terrorism in Canada and beyond. The tunnel was equipped with electricity supplied by a generator, a sump pump to remove water, and a pulley system to remove dirt. It likely took more than one person to dig it out by hand. Ice that formed at the end of the hose attached to the sump pump indicates that the tunnel must have been used this winter. Police also found a gas can, food and beverage containers, work gloves, a wheelbarrow, and moisture-resistant light bulbs in the tunnel, which has since then been filled in. Its entrance was concealed by dirt over a wooden lid. Crazy. Remember that picture we posted? Clown hugs. Remember that? A war with Ukraine would be apocalyptic, according to Russian President Vladimir Putin. He said, and I'm quoting here, "I believe such an apocalyptic scenario is unlikely, and I hope that it will never get to that point," he told Russian media yesterday. Putin said he's confident the crisis will stabilize if the Minsk agreement is implemented. The accord between Russia, Ukraine, France, and Germany includes a ceasefire between Ukraine and pro-Russian separatists and the agreement for both sides to pull back heavy weapons, and neither at this point has done either. Hakuto, check this out, so cool. NASCAR is going to the moon. Oh, yeah. Have you heard about this? Hakuto, the Japanese-only team competing for the $30 million Google Lunar X Prize, has announced a contract with fellow competitor Astrobotic, based in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, to carry a pair of rovers to the moon. They're going to race. Oh, yeah, next year. Astrobotic plans to launch its Google Lunar X Prize mission on a SpaceX Falcon 9 rocket from Cape Canaveral, Florida, during the second half of 2016. Hakuto's twin rovers, Moonraker and Tetris, will piggyback on Astrobotic's Griffin lander to reach the lunar surface. Upon touchdown, the rovers will be released simultaneously with Astrobotic's Andy rover, developed by Carnegie Mellon University. They're going to travel 500 meters on the moon's surface and send back high-definition images and a video back to Earth, all in pursuit of a $20 million grand prize. That's right. The winner's going to split the cash. The Republican-led Senate will vote for the fourth time in as many weeks to begin debate on the stalled funding bill for the Department of Homeland Security, which faces a Friday deadline. But like the three votes before it, Senate Democrats are expected to block taking up the bill that passed the GOP-controlled House because it contains what they consider poison bills, provisions that would block President Obama's executive orders on immigration. With only now 3 days left before DHS funding ends, with large parts of the agency will be shuttered and employees will be forced to work without pay. A report by The Intercept claims spy agencies from the U.S. and the UK jointly hacked into the world's largest manufacturer of SIM cards in order to monitor mobile phones around the world. The Intercept was co-founded by Glenn Greenwald, the former Guardian journalist who worked with Edward Snowden to reveal the National Security Agency's huge spying program. And citing documents provided by Snowden, it claimed the NSA and its UK equivalent hacked into Gemalto to get hold of encryption keys that allow access to SIM cards across the globe. Based in the Netherlands, Gemalto reportedly makes 2 billion SIM cards per year. Clients include AT&T, T-Mobile, Verizon, Sprint, and about 450 other global telecom firms. It also makes chips for credit cards and works with over 3,000 financial institutions. The company, which prides itself on top-notch digital security, said it was not aware of the hacking, which ran from 2010 to 2011. That's it. That's all of the news that you probably know nothing about. I'm your host, Jimmy Church. This is Fade to Black. When I come back after the break, we will be joined by the one and only Laura Eisenhower. Follow us on Twitter at JChurchRadio. Shoot me an email to Jimmy@jimmychurchradio.com. That's right. You got anything else you need to do, you can hashtag F2BQ. Any questions for Laura? We'll be back with Laura Eisenhower right after this. Stay with us.
Hi, I'm Rex Dominguez, and I listen to JimmyChurchRadio.com. Jimmy is your preacher.
Amen. This is Toby Kebbell. You're listening to JimmyChurchRadio.com. Don't hurt me, Jimmy. I'm only little.
Hey, I'm Adrian Grenier, and this is Ari Gold. We're of the Honey Brothers. We're of the Honey Brothers. Hey, I'm Adrian Grenier, and I'm Ari Gold. We're the Honey Brothers, and you're listening to Jimmy Church. The Revolution.
KJCR. JimmyChurchRadio.com.
Despite popular opinion, reading a book will not make you smarter.
But listening to Jimmy Church will.
All right, welcome back. Fade to Black, bespoke radio for the masses, only on the Game Changer Network. Tune in, Spreaker, TalkStream Live. I'm your host, Jimmy Church. Let's get this one cracking. I'm pretty excited about tonight. Been looking forward to this for a very long time. Laura Eisenhower is an intuitive astrologist, global alchemist, and cosmic mythologist. She is the great-granddaughter of Dwight David Eisenhower, and she is on a profound mission to reveal our true origins connected with the Magdalena and the Gaia Sophia energies of love and wisdom, and works to liberate us from the military-industrial complex. She is also a whistleblower, and she has been speaking out about being recruited to go to a colony on Mars that represented a timeline that she refused to go along with. She has been able to uncover some unnecessary truths and necessary truths and agendas that humanity is being kept in the dark about, doing lectures and workshops on these issues, speaking on topics such as global alchemy, Christ Sophia, sacred union, ET races, esoteric cosmology, and the positive timeline, and seeks to empower the individual so that harmony can be restored. I am truly honored and would like to welcome to Fade to Black for the first time, Laura Eisenhower. Hello, Laura. How are you tonight?
I'm great. How are you, Jimmy?
It's a good night. You're here. That's all that matters, Laura.
Oh, I'm so happy to be here. Thank you for having me.
So I'm just going to say really quick, as you know, we blow through 2,000, 3,000, 4,000 tweets a night with the Fadernauts. And before the show tonight, everybody made you an honorary Fadernaut. How does that feel? Do you feel good? Can you feel the vibe?
I'm so honored. Awesome.
It is. It is so cool. And check your Twitter account. It's going to light up tonight. And welcome to the program.
Well, thank you so much.
Where do we start, young lady? Where do we start with you? You've got so many things that you do, so many active things that you're working on constantly. You've got a great past, not only with your family, but things that you've gone through. And this conversation tonight can go in one of 100 different directions and last for hours. And I honestly, with all of the guests that I've had on the show, I'm truly stumped as to where to start. So let's back up a little bit. I know that you've talked about this a lot, and it's certainly for the people out there that the rare person out there that doesn't know about your past. And your family. Why don't we just kind of start there? And what was it like growing up with the obvious question with the last name Eisenhower?
Wow. Well, it was definitely very different for my mom and her siblings. they had a lot of the Secret Service men sort of breathing down their neck. I had a very normal experience as far as that part, just going to school like a normal person. There were no vehicles following me. There was just more the family gatherings that I got a lot out of. And that's where I really got the biggest, I guess you could say, people use the term downloads, but like revelations about my mission. I mean, I've always been very in touch with a lot of different elements of what I came here to do, starting from a very young age. But when it came to just being around family, I mean, it took it into a whole nother dimension. And, I focus a lot on the mythologies, the balance of the masculine and feminine, the Gaia energy, Gaia Sophia, the stargates opening in the window period that we're in, and just a lot about our galactic history, and just a lot of ancient memories just sort of encoded in me, connected to the path of the divine feminine. And I know that sounds sort of weird. It's like, well, what is that supposed to mean? It sounds like some sort of fluffy characteristic we're supposed to empower, and it's so much deeper than that. I mean, it's connected to the elements. It's connected to the regenerative power of nature, the cosmic womb, and the birthing element of all of us. And so this just kind of took it into a broader direction, when you start to think about ETs and government treaties. And Ike has been my spirit guide and one of my spirit guides since I was a little kid. We'll start there. I would sit there in bed and just be, my sister shared a room with me, and I'd be like, Caroline, are you seeing this bald guy? That's like, I think that's like, we're related to him. These weird dialogues, and it just sort of hit me. This is a historical figure. He made a mark in history. I mean, we're talking the Second World War here, but the military-industrial complex, right? And everything started to really open up the doorways into a lot of the stuff we don't hear about. For me, when I was standing in line at a grocery store, and I talk about this, I mean, I've mentioned this before, I saw a Weekly World News article, which usually talks about like Bat Boys taking over New York City.
Right.
It's the complete joke newspaper. And one of the articles was about Eisenhower meeting with ETs. And I know I was older than 8, so let me think, maybe 10 or 11, but definitely young, by my mom's side, just sort of like looking around at the world, like what the hell is going on? And so I see this, and I'm like, what, I don't think this is a fake story. I think this is a true story. And it just never left my mind. And so my curiosity, was a big part of how I've come to understand a lot of what took place. And also the recruitment I went through in 2006. So just before we go into that, being in this family has been very interesting because I think a lot of people think it's like an Illuminati family. I just have to set the record straight. There are no trust funds. I've worked my butt off. I've raised my kids. I've done every job under the sun. Landscaping, that was a big one for me. And I won't go into like my whole resume right now, but it's been a difficult journey. Just like anybody else who's trying to raise kids. I've been a single parent. I gave birth to twin boys who are amazing, but didn't end up with their dad, who was an abductee and had some very, very difficult personality traits, we'll just say, and ended up not able to hang with him. So the family energy has really been about love and support. I wouldn't have gotten through what I excuse me, let me articulate that better. I wouldn't be where I am today if I didn't have their support. And I have to say that they've been with me and helped me through thick and thin. And it's not the money, that's not what it was. I mean, yeah, every once in a while they would assist. My mom has helped me, here and there on a small scale. But it's the love, it's the support that has grown over the years. It was difficult growing up. I was the total freak, definitely the black sheep. Everybody was just sort of scratching their head, like, what do we do with this one? Especially at gatherings in DC when I had a little bit too much champagne, and I'm talking about everything that I shouldn't probably be mentioning, that I actually should be mentioning, actually, very importantly. But I guess, what it comes down to is just the love. Like, I was very close to my grandfather, Ike's son, who transitioned this last year. And, my grandmother and just everybody. I mean, we're just a really tight family, and it's amazing. And there's no weird rituals. I've gone through enough sort of hypno-regression and gone through clairvoyant institutes to have me, completely probed and looked up and down on a psychic level, not on a, I'm not going into, I don't know why I use the word probe. But you know what I mean? It's like there's not a lot there that is foreign to me, or that's like lost to me, lost to me. And so I just have to say that, there's a spirit of love in the Eisenhower family that blows my mind. And and it's growing. I just went there this last December for the memorial service of my grandmother. And it was we just have the best time together. And they're more supportive of me than ever with what I'm exposing and what I'm doing. And, and that's what comes first. It's like if people need to make adjustments to other family members, the heart is big enough to make those adjustments, and the judgments aren't there. It might take a little while on some things because we're dealing with a last name, and it's all their last name, and it's a big deal for all of them, for somebody like me to come out with what I'm coming out with, because it's going to affect everybody. We're talking about me saying, I absolutely am certain that ET and government treaties are taking place, or did take place, and actually I feel like they continue to take place. And that I, was a part of some of it, and then this Mars stuff. So anyway, they're beautiful people, and I'm grateful because they've kept me strong, and I didn't want to have the easy way out. I'm a tough person. I want to get my hands in the dirt. I'm not here to ride the coattails of anybody. And when I was presented with an opportunity to be the debutante of the New York City International Ball with the main page, representing the whole ball, I actually turned it down, and it was the tradition that all Eisenhower women would do it. And I just couldn't do it. I had dreadlocks in my hair, and I'm up in the mountains, and I'm just like, I'm on my mission, and I'm going through the underworld, and I'm like, I do not want cameras on me, and I do not want to be in New York City, and I do not want to be, wearing these gowns and having like these weird conversations with people with all these cameras on me. I'm on a real mission, and I'm a warrior, and this is what I'm choosing. And then I ended up carrying the Eisenhower name later when I felt it necessary for people to, pay attention to the Mars agenda and the stuff that I'm exposing. And that's the only reason I decided to. And plus, my mom legally changed my name to Eisenhower because she's the one who raised me. So.
Well, I got to say, dreadlocks and a gown would have made a statement.
I look back and I'm like, God, you should have done it, for this or that reason. But I was sort of like, I was really in the underworld, and it was almost like impossible. But I think there's probably a parallel timeline where I actually did, and I think it went well. So
right on. Hey, I'm going to ask you one question for me. This is kind of a guy question, but with all of the stories that are out there about Ike and the famed meeting, has the family ever talked? Are they aware of it, and do they talk about it?
Well, that's a great question. I mean, this has been sort of the thing, and this is after a few glasses of champagne. Way back when I used to drink, that would be sort of the okay. Let's talk about the ETs and. And and I'm kind of joking about the alcohol part, but it's like, it's a hard thing to sort of break through. And everybody's different. It's not like we all live in a tribe together and there's a group mind. I mean, everybody's living their own life. So maybe some people, know about it and understand it, and other people, it's just sort of like went right over their head. So when we all gather, which was every Thanksgiving for, years and years, up until like 2 years ago, last year or so, actually 2 years ago, I would bring this up to different family members, because we're all standing around and everybody's taking turns talking to whoever. And I'm not getting anything. And then my mom even told me recently that because she gets a lot of email, and she works in DC, and she's, she does big stuff. And of course she gets a lot of emails where people are like, what's up with these rumors about your grandfather? And so she told me that she went to her father, my grandfather, John, who transitioned this last year, like I said. And he said he went to a dentist, and that's all there is to it. It was a dentist appointment, blah, 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 which, of course, is the cover story, I feel.
Right.
And I'm like, man, come on. Like, anyway, so I guess this is the way it's going to be, and we're going to leave it at that as far as the Eisenhower family is concerned, and that's fine. I don't sense any deception. I don't sense any ill, hidden agenda in them. I just felt such innocence when my mom said it, and I asked my dad, just what's going on with this? She didn't know anything, and I could feel it because I'm, I do enough readings, and we're all psychic, but I'm very sensitive just as a being, very empathic. And I was in the wilderness for so long, and that heightened sensitivities. And I can tell, the BS meter goes off pretty darn easy, and I rely on it pretty steadily. And I can just tell, that a lot of them are just, there's really nothing that they've got. But this last trip, talking about Valiant Thor, I'm like, anybody?
Right.
And it's, connected to Venus and the beings in Venus, because maybe that's a little bit more comfortable, because the grays, that's, and those rumors, it's, I think, anybody would be processing it if it was a close family member. And it's a close family member of mine. And of course I've been processing it, but I've been researching and really trying to get to the truth and putting it out there, saying, I don't maybe have it all figured out, but I want to put it all out there because we need to just have a conversation about this. Anybody who's in this field, because there's whistleblowers, and I'm pretty certain, that this actually happens. So I'm not getting a whole lot from them, but I do have their support now. They really love me, and they appreciate what I'm doing. And I think deep down they know, nobody else is talking about this. And she's the only Eisenhower that's willing to talk about some, very controversial stuff. And deep down, I just feel their gratitude, or I know that they'd be pushing me away, and they're certainly not. So, and they know that I'm out there in public. I don't know what they see, but it's so far it's going real well, and we're just close. So I'm grateful for that, because it wasn't like that growing up. I was trying to find my way, and I had a weird mission. I was trying to understand it. I was just really in a whole other world. I was out of my body for 20 years. I was just processing my mission my whole life since I was a kid, and not the kind of thing you can easily talk to somebody about, I'm clearing inorganic entities from wormholes, and and I'm trying to protect the positive timeline, and it's just okay, but that's kind of what it was. And I think people don't realize that they're doing this sort of stuff, and we do all sorts of stuff we don't realize we're doing to help the planet. I just like to bring it to light so we can validate it, and then expose the things that we need to be careful of, so that we can be watchful and divert our attention to where it really counts and where the priorities are.
You mentioned Valiant Thor. I don't want to have that get past us. What have you found out? Have you turned over anything interesting?
Well, Craig Campobasso, who's a good friend of mine, is a producer and director, first-time director of Stranger in the Pentagon, which is the true story about this. And the trailer is already out, and it's just sort of a snippet. Very well done, and hopefully it'll become a feature film. But anybody can Google Frank Strange's the book Stranger in the Pentagon, and basically they showed up and asked to meet the president, and President Nixon, Eisenhower and Nixon, decided to put him on VIP status in the Pentagon for 3 years. Basically, what he said was, okay, we're interested in knowing you and getting to know you and working together. And so, 3 years is a long time. And what I've come to understand is he got real close to Nixon. It was easier to get close to Nixon because he's vice president. Eisenhower had a lot going on. But Valiant Thor had a whole ship, called Victor 1. And there were other beings from Venus that were along with him, I think 2 others. And their proposal was to assist the human race and get us out of this crazy system, military-industrial complex, and to, help us to achieve our highest potential and everything that would cause us to not need our governments anymore, because we don't even need them, as we know. The dependency is a screwed-up relationship, and it's based on, a lot of manipulation, and it's about control. So they really pretty much made sure that they wouldn't be able to help that the president, that Ike, whatever he proposed, was turned down. I don't know how the government thing works. I didn't pass the government test in high school. I don't have a mind for government at all. And people are like, aren't you an Eisenhower? And you just don't get this government thing. And I'm like, yep, that's right. I just don't have a mind for it. But I do know that, what shut it down is that system of control called government. And Eisenhower and Nixon, were on his side. And anyway, so they didn't leave. Supposedly they are stationed around the world, the motherships, the ships Venus, and the main mothership is at Lake Mead, and it's invisible, but you can tell there's an energy field there. You can tell something's there. So
yeah, sure. And not only that, there really hasn't been any denial officially out of Washington about Valiant Thor and him being there. I just find that part very, very interesting. And you're exactly right. 2-3 years living in an apartment at the Pentagon is an awfully long time for an imposter.
Yeah, really. And, just the book that's been written, people who have had, contact and experiences. The producer, has had contact and experiences. And there's just so much that I keep learning, just about what Eisenhower, also did in connection with, the Greys and the treaties that were considered actually more a surrender. And I don't know if this is the time to go into it. I don't want to just, keep, going on and on. But if I just have a moment, he set up something in the 1950s, a special section of the U.S. Marine Corps. And basically it was set up because, these treaties had taken place and MJ-12 had their hands on alien technology, and Eisenhower didn't trust them at all with the alien technology because they're all elitists and they're very much all about themselves. And, it's beyond even just having hoarding issues. I mean, we're talking about, Illuminati, and we know that there's a lot of really disturbing stuff that goes on. And he knew this. I mean, how can you not know it? So people who insult him and say, oh, Bohemian Grove, Illuminati, Eisenhower did this and that. And it's like, okay, he's a president, so of course he's going to be taken to weird places. But, if he's warning us about the military-industrial complex and he set up something, this special section in the U.S. Marine Corps to keep these guys in check with the alien technology, I don't think he's, doing some weird ritual. And I certainly know that it would probably be in the family if that was going on. So the special section, basically he signed into law that if they weren't able to handle things behind the scenes and sort of get, things stabilized, that they were under legal authority to disclose everything. So I'm sure people, I don't know your type of audience, but Google Captain K. His real name is Randy Kramer. He he's a part of the Special Section Marine Corps. And I don't want to start going off into some really, far out information. I'd rather, just you ask me questions, but there's just so much there we just don't know. And we're a lot more protected than we can imagine. I mean, it's huge to have a huge part of the military actually, keeping those guys in check and being legally allowed to disclose everything. I mean, if people say, when's disclosure going to happen? It's happening. There's legal authority, connected to the military, and it's not the part of the military that, has lost itself to, some of the dark agendas. It's really those that are in service and have the highest integrity and moral fiber, and that's why, he set it up this way. And now we're seeing, that wow, okay, there's something going on here, and it's there's projects connected to it that are working with the cancer fighting ETs of the universe, and they got some strategies big time. But MJ-12 is the big council with the alien technology. But he made sure that there was something to keep an eye on them, so. Well,
I wanted to say this really quick. We can go in any direction. This is just you and I sitting on my couch. Okay, you and I are talking. Don't worry. The audience is sitting on the edge of their seats right now. You don't have to worry about a thing. So don't worry about that. Just speak. Open your mind. Also, Captain K, over the last 6 months on this show, his name has been tweeted at least once every single show. Who was Captain K? Let's address that really quick.
Well, he's a really good friend of mine now, so it's really like an exciting development to have him in my life. But it's hard to describe somebody else, and it's like you don't want to mess up, you don't want to say things the wrong way, you don't want to get their bio wrong, and
right.
Number one, I can say he's got incredible integrity. He's a really truly wonderful person, incredibly articulate, incredibly intelligent. And, you know, right away, my first impression, I mean, he writes me an email and he's like, you know, introduces himself. And he tells me all this stuff about Eisenhower and how the special section was set up in the U.S. Marine Corps, and just all these incredible things, you know, that were just amazing to hear, because I'm just so used to, you know, all the emails like your great grandfather sold us out to the ETs. And in actual fact, the treaties originated with Roosevelt, and the negative ET agenda originated long before that. And when it started to really take hold and the abductions began to happen, that was Aleister Crowley, Churchill, and Hitler. And I have a lot of information behind why I'm saying that. So if anybody wants to write me and say, hey, Laura, that sounds crazy, where did you get that info? You know, find my contact information. Anyway, so he, you know, wrote me and said that, you know, this world would have been engulfed in darkness, you know, in so many ways, you know, if it weren't for him. And, you know, and then I guess somebody had told me part of a different project that Eisenhower was briefed about me being born. And there's all this stuff about time travel, and like I've been, you know, targeted before birth. So we're not even talking about normal, you know, the way it all functions just in our reality. And there is no really reality anymore. That's like the word normal. What the hell does that mean anymore? So, but there's, you know, like a lot that has been going on, and a lot of strategizing throughout, you know, history, a lot of time travel negotiations that I've been involved in, that he told me about, you know, setting things up to protect us in the future. And it's just like, okay, you know, and I have an open mind, but I don't fix my beliefs. You know, I think it's dangerous to say, okay, that's absolute truth then. You know, I accept, you know, that especially if it resonates, that, you know, something is the truth, but I keep it as flexible as possible. And as long as I keep that flexibility, it can, you know, it can be adjusted, and I'm not, you know, pushing it or fighting for it. I'm always open. And, you know, and the biggest thing for me is not pushing belief systems on people. It's really, it comes down to, well, what does all this mean anyway? It's about our sovereignty. It's about empowerment. It's about understanding what we're really made of. And it's also about understanding what has been hidden from us. Let's bring it all out, and then let's all talk about it, and know that we all have a very important part and a very important voice. And that's the person I want to be. You know, I'm not the one that wants to be out there and say, this is what the truth is. You need to think this way. And, you know, if you don't think this way, you know, it's just, I'm really like, you know, operating from a place I don't think people are used to. And that's, I mean, I get endless criticism and insults. I mean, I know a lot of them are paid to do that. But, you know, I think if people really get to know me and my work, you know, they'll see that they get a lot from it. It provides an opportunity for real growth and change and transformation. And it's them doing it. It's not me saying I have the magic formula. It's just I've dedicated my life to, you know, how I can do that and hold space for people and use certain tools and modalities like astrology and tarot and, you know, reading chakras and understanding our galactic history, you know, knowing that we have beyond these seven, and we need to go beyond, you know, the seven heavens and seven hell. It's just, there's so much to be excited about, let's just say.
I'm sorry. I didn't mean to cut you off.
No.
Okay.
No, not at all.
You mentioned earlier that Ike didn't necessarily trust MJ-12, that they were onto their own agenda. But didn't he handpick MJ-12 to report to him?
Well, this is where it's weird. I mean, from what I understand, Truman set up MJ-12. Eisenhower set up what's called the Jason Scholars. And there's been a lot of infiltrations, you know, and I don't think he was necessarily able to handpick everybody. He didn't like any of these people. And when you think about it, here he is, general in the Second World War, trying to, you know, defeat Hitler. And a lot of the Illuminatists, you know, and the Zionists and the Nazis, they're all a part of the same, you know, sort of ring as far as I'm concerned. And it's not the kind of thing we're going to all figure out like right off the bat. So, I mean, we got to kind of cut him some slack. I mean, we're all trying to catch up with it and figure it out. It's like, you know, the queen shapeshifts. It's like into a reptile. Okay. You know, and so imagine, you know, wartime and people are acting like they're your allies and colleagues and associates. And, you know, there's this hidden stuff going on, this shadow government. And unless you're a part of the shadow government, it's pretty well hidden. So he's just a simple farm boy. And if you look at the raw material, the Law of One, and you Google Eisenhower, you know, it says that he was just a congenial, simple person, not bent on power. And the ET races that visited him, or at least one of them, you know, felt that it was sort of an experiment to see what somebody like him would do. Somebody who's not been on power, been on power. I mean, that's a huge clue right there. I mean, what's the biggest problem in our world? Obsession with power and control. And so anybody Google Law of One, Dwight David Eisenhower, or ETs, and you'll get an idea of at least what that book and that channeling says about him. So anyway, whatever he might have picked or whatever he might have been pushed to pick, he made a statement, and my mom wrote it in her book, that he put a time capsule in the Gettysburg Farm in the walls. And I was just there in December, mid-December, trying real hard not to take a sledgehammer and tear down the walls. But the time capsule's not supposed to be open until 2050. And supposedly, I guess what some of the communication that got passed down to her was that there's a lot of information about what he really thought about everything, the people he was working with, and maybe it was him disclosing everything about ETs, and there's maybe a reason he chose that year, because his loved ones would have been, I don't know, at that age where it wouldn't affect them. I mean, he had 8 heart attacks. People were getting killed right and left for exposing this sort of stuff, and so I just feel like the timing was right, and I slipped in. I don't know. I mean, I'm still here. I can't, knock on wood. I'm saying, and I'm Googling bulletproof jackets here and there.
Well, I have to ask you. We're at the top of the hour. This is Fade to Black. I'm your host, Jimmy Church. We are talking with Laura Eisenhower, Bespoke Radio for the Masses. Laura, what is your day like? I mean, do you walk out of the house and look up both ends of the street and kind of check things out? Are you ever in fear?
No, I mean, to tell you the truth, I'm I don't. A part of me doesn't take it very seriously until I think about people like Kathy O'Brien and people that have been mind controlled and tortured. Then the all about justice and just doing everything I possibly can to expose all this and bring things to justice. There's something that just sort of takes over. What I could call it divine rage. Just something in me that just knows that somebody's got to do it, and I'm willing to do it, and I'm not afraid. It's like I've died so many times in this one body. We're lifting the veils between life and death in this ascension window period. We've died so many times, so what's the big deal? I just, what's there to fear? And as far as I end up saying some really disturbing things sometimes, and I got to kind of be careful. But and if it comes down to somebody really screwing with me, I'm not afraid to just sort of do something to go through a portal and just exit out of here. I went through a really intense journey that I, wrote a book about. Going into the underworld wasn't just the dark night of the soul. It was going through some serious gateways, and it's very mythological. I didn't realize how many books were written about this sort of path until later. I was just like, this is freaky,
right.
And I didn't think who is going to understand that? Like I said before about the wormholes and the stargates and all this stuff that I've been energetically doing since I was a kid. I mean, there was no way I could help it. I mean, this is what I'm here to do. But just to not get too off track, where was I going with this? So yeah, fear, I have my moments, and I think it's a teacher, and, I'm not it's not like I don't have, those things come up. I think it's helpful because it helps us to have, it's like senses. If we put our hand on a stove, okay, then we need to have alerts in our system to protect us. But if we live in the vibration of fear, that's a whole nother matter. So I let fear be my friend and teacher, and it's never been a problem for me. And so I don't look at it as fear. I look at it as my friend who kind of guides me into revelations and epiphanies and helps me upgrade my DNA and helps me to connect with my greater spiritual abilities. To me, it's sort of like, I don't know. It's not really an issue. For others, it crumbles them, and they can't function, and they're in victim mode. They're paralyzed, and this is why I do what I do. I do session work, and I help people through processing a lot of the information that's hard to handle, and I'm here to kind of hold their hand through their dark night of the soul, even though I can't do it for them. But I just have to say that the journey I went through was something I can't even explain or articulate right now. Sometimes I do good with it, and it's just like, oh, cool, that made sense, I got it out. But it's just like so far out there and difficult to explain, but it is very, very much about something energetic that needed to happen. And, the earth is an organism, so the way we heal is similar to the way the earth heals. And so some of us take it upon ourselves to extend ourselves beyond our own life to do this for Gaia, because she's under attack. We're under attack. And anyway, there's things that need to happen. We need to plant seeds in the depths of, these hell cycles or these hell zones, because it's actually the mother womb and it just needs to be purified. There's really no such thing as hell. It's just, if we don't get our power back and if we're not willing to stand in our power, yeah, we're dealing with a hell world. But we can change it at any time. It has nothing to do with punishment. It has to do with a choice. Are we willing to face our demons? Are we willing to face the things that we feel is just negative or fear-based? Let's face it, it's reality. And if we can face it, it's like we're going to get to the other side. If you're in a relationship, do you want to be with somebody that's cheating on you? No. Is it fear-based to be troubled if you find out? No, it's like you want to move on and you want your life back. And so this is what we're doing, and this is what the focus should be. There's nothing but good news ahead. We're liberating ourselves. But yeah, we're going to have to find out some difficult things. I don't really have any fear, I have to say. I mean, it's like I said, it's a smidgen, but it's a good smidgen, and I appreciate it. But my overall energetic is passion, purpose, and I'm just on fire. And and I just see the multidimensional landscape. And to me, there's no division between life and death. It's just an initiation. We can die, like I said, we can die so many times in this one body. Some of us, it's too much. And so we have to leave this particular meat suit behind to get a new one, because we can't shift. It's like our grandparents, I mean, some people just don't know how to ride the waves of change. And so, yeah, they need to come back again. But some people, know how to surf all the changes, and they can stay in one body for a very long time and go through all these different things without needing to come back again.
Before you were able to face your fear and deal with fear, take me back to that moment. Were you sleeping with one eye open? Did it just become overwhelming? And then how did you face the change and initiate it?
Okay, you asked the coolest questions. Oh my God. Well, okay. So when it all just sort of started to dawn on me that, we're not just dealing with patriarchy and imbalance of the masculine and feminine. We're dealing with, a machine. We're dealing with artificial intelligence. We're dealing with alien machinery. We're dealing with astral entities and, ET races that have agendas that are ancient, that are not really in our favor. So they don't like me, a lot of them. And a lot of them actually do respect me. I'm not here to there's a lot I could share about me and, my history and my past lives, but that's not really my focus. I don't know if it really matters. But man, I mean, it started pretty early. I have to say, I write a lot about the underworld journey. I talk a lot about it. And, like I said, I took it on a much larger level. I felt like I was getting suffocated every day. It was so hard to keep myself alive for at least 25 years or so. And not in a necessarily well thought out way, like I'm sitting here knowing what my emotions are about. I cried for literally 20 years straight. And it was like nonstop. And I'm counting the days. I'm like, okay, is there any day where there's the release valve isn't on? And then I realized that pretty much every day of my life was really shitty. And I'm like, what is going on here? Because I'm a very creative being. I have so much love in my heart. I'm very positive. And I'm not saying this from a place of being a victim or, I didn't get money I don't care about money. I'm talking energetically and just with the people in my life and the things that matter most. Just something was just doing something, terrible, making my life a living hell, years and years and years and years. And I was like, I have to be senior to this. It's going to suffocate me and kill me. And I did die a few times. And you can look at my chart. It's all Scorpio, Pluto, and, 8th house. And it's just, I'm very comfortable with the whole death thing. But when you first step into that zone and, you're trying to just show up in elementary school, I realized I was living a double life, and there was something going on and it was important and I had to do it. It was a part of my mission. But I'm sorry, if I'm getting off.
No, you're right on target. You're right on target. And so how did you, one day you took the turn, young lady, and you went, that's it. I need to deal with my fears. And how did you do it? Something happened. There was, one day was one direction, and then you did 180 degrees the next day, and you felt free? How did you do it?
Well, okay, so a lot of it, like I said, the 20 years of there always had to be some sort of release, because if I didn't, the accumulation was toxic, because, basically, and I've seen a lot of readers and psychics, and I stumbled upon a clairvoyant institute. I never cared to go. It was just it just ended up happening. And, they saw everything, you just take on all of it. And, anyway, so the only way I guess I could just be in my physical body was to, release some of this. It was just, you could call it like the pain of Mother Earth, but she's much stronger than we realize. She's a multidimensional body. She's given this portion of her for us to learn and grow. And it's kind of like a sacrifice, but she's got a lot more to her. But just the suffering on the planet and just everything, and just, just the imbalance of everything. It's just the sensitivity to it was crazy. So what turned it 360, first of all, you just decide who gives a crap what anybody thinks. I mean, and also just, really learning how to love yourself. It's like, I was just like, it just hit me like, pat yourself on the freaking back, look at the family you're in, you're not going the path of the politician, you're exposing all this stuff, and, you're bringing back, stuff that's really going to help on a deeper soulful level. And, those revelations, I don't have an ego. Like, I don't know how to feel good about myself. I don't know how to, before I speak, it's just like every time I feel like I'm going to have a stroke. And it's like the only reason I don't is because it'd be like embarrassing to just have the ambulance come and ruin the event. So, people think that like, oh, she must have this and it must be easy. And they think it's glamorous. It's not. This path is just like, try it for a week, people, and then call me, okay? Now it's getting a little bit easier, but I couldn't breathe. I had so much weaponry on me. It wasn't until I started talking on the phone about this Mars agenda and almost being taken off planet did they start to back off, because they were like, oh my God, she busted us, because the way they set it up was, we're going to take you and protect you. And, they had no idea I was going to find out, all this stuff about alien technology and, the Mars agenda and what they really had planned about being a breakaway civilization that we're dealing with right now, that we have to, just be real about with each other. I mean, you spend all your time, wasting it on calling me crazy, but like, come on, look at the whistleblowers out there. Look at, I've got emails, I got proof, and anyway, it doesn't matter, that part of it. But these things turn around in some areas kind of slowly, and in other areas they're quick revelations, and it's just like everything just changes. And I think the biggest one is just knowing, just feeling just the love of spirit, and just knowing that there's so much beyond this reality. And it's not about belief systems or a religious book or new age teachings. I don't follow anything. I lived in the wilderness for years. My background's in wilderness expedition leadership. And so, I recognize spirituality is just us really waking up to who we are as multidimensional beings. It's about us understanding our uniqueness and being willing to harmonize with other people's uniqueness. And that's where our oneness is. And I learned so much just being in nature and just bypassing all that other stuff that, has distortions and just, things that aren't necessarily healthy. So I just encourage people to use your body as a gauge. If your body doesn't have wellness, then, figure out what your belief systems are, because maybe they're not serving you. Because truth matches the resonance of a healthy and balanced body. I wrote this tonight, and if we want to find our own inner truth, we can learn how to get there by learning from our body and the wisdom of our body, the symptoms it gives us, the needs it has, and the things that it wants us to do for it. When we're addicted to the matrix, we can't listen anymore. We can't hear. And when we're caught up in belief systems and we think we have the answers, but we aren't well at all, and our relationships are horrible, and, and we're really not walking the talk, it's like, let's get real, people. And so I keep it very simple. I mean, I don't know. I follow like nature, and that's my teacher. And I just know everybody's got the incredible laws and books and wisdom inside them. And I just want to help them unlock that.
How open were your eyes before 2006? Were you on that path before the events of 2006 started to unfold?
Well, 2006 was when I was recruited to go off planet. I've been processing things connected to 2012 since I was 6 years old. And this is a part of why strange people from out of nowhere would just sort of kind of come to me, and they knew that I knew what was going on. I could see the programmings. I could see all this stuff. I was a really, kind of psychic kid. And like everybody, it kind of gets a little bit kicked out of us, or it gets projected upon, or we feel like, oh, we got to hide that, people are uncomfortable with it.
Well, what kind of people were approaching you at that age? What do you mean by that?
Okay, well, a little bit later than 6. I would say around 10 or 11. No, I mean 6, 7 years old. There was a spell that. Okay, there's so many long stories. Oh my God.
We have all the time in the world, Laura.
Oh wow. Okay. Well, the one at 6 or 7 was not. It was an indirect approach, and it ended up like almost like a time loop. It ended up all making sense in my early 30s. But other people approaching me, oh my God, I don't even know where to begin with that. It's just people out of the woodworks, and it was all about Magdalene and Sophia, and it still happens to this day. And it's not like I'm like, oh, I'm just connected to this and I'm making any claims about, incarnation or anything. I think it's a universal energy. I'd rather just empower it and people and their connection to it. But yeah, I said when I was a kid, use me. This is my human vessel. Whatever you need to do to bring balance to this world, just use me. Use my freaking body, use my life, And I said that when I was young, and then I was just like, what have you done? Because my life has been so insane. But I'm so glad I did it. That was maybe one moment, in my whole life. I just had that one moment. It's just like, that was nuts, whatever you said that time. But it's in my astro chart, so it's not like, it's just the way it is. But I made that statement and just really owned it. And it was really just like, let the intelligence of nature and cosmos and let it work through me. It knows exactly what it's doing, and we need to allow it, and it's a part of us. So it's not like channeling. So God, people approaching me. Well, when I was 7, I could feel a really weird energy on me, like a dark energy on me, and everything started to change. I mean, even like something weird was going on, and like everything, started to get weird. And this was not like the psychotronic weaponry that I was dealing with. This was a spell. And anyway, I didn't know it at the time. I just was walking around with spells, curses, and, weaponry, and the fact that I was pre-targeted before birth. That's what Project Pegasus said. That's, what, people like Andrew Bartis have said. This is what Captain K has said. So, when you get more than 4 people who don't really talk, saying all the same thing, and other people years and years and years and years ago, it's just like, I'm a skeptic when it comes to a lot of this stuff. And I have to be, to just sort of step back and ask the kind of questions that the audience would. And because I need that clarity too. I'm not one to just say, oh, I saw it on the internet. All right, that must be true. Right. I go into zones and I go, I mean, you can ask my partner, Dr. Dream. It's like, it's every day 24/7. And it's been like this since I was a little kid. I've always had this thing going around my third eye, just trying to strategize and process all this stuff. And so here I have Ike hanging out in my space, who's a great strategist. And it's just like, all right, here's my team member, and let's do it. And I know I've sort of lost the question, but
well, it was about people that have approached you over the years, and when they do approach you, can you feel it coming? And do they identify themselves? I know it's kind of a strange question, but it's also great. Very direct.
Well, it's great because who asked me this and gives me the opportunity to share certain stories that I probably would never share if I weren't asked. So anyway, so I could feel this energy on me, and okay, this was a later approach. I did have others approach me. I would have to just sort of kind of go into it, just really random things. Even my kids, said really weird things to me, at the age of 3 when they first started talking about my path and things. But in my early years, there was always, these freaks coming out of the woodworks that were living in other dimensions that could see me, and this is where I was living a double life, and so I could see them, and there was just sort of stuff going on, and they knew what I needed to know in that moment. And so anyway, just to go back, because this is a wild story. So 7 years old, I feel this energy on me, and whatever about the weaponry, I'm just so used to it. It's like, that's why I talk fast, and people are like, wonder why my nervous system's a little screwed up. But so, okay, I basically, I think it was 2001, like a few years before the Mars recruitment. I just couldn't take it anymore. I mean, I was having such a struggle, with life, and it hadn't, I can't even describe it. And it had nothing to do with, how I was doing financially or this or that. I mean, when I was single parenting, I had to be on food stamps. I mean, like I said, I don't have trust funds, but I think this was, like a little bit after I had the kids, and I was just like, I couldn't take it anymore. Like, I can't create anything, and I'm a creator. Like, what is going on? And I said, I'm done. Like, take it to me, And I was living in California at the time. And this was when I was at the Institute, the Clairvoyant Institute. And they were all trying to help me and trying to keep me in my body. And I was so far out of my body, and I had been for so many years. And like, God only knows, like, I mean, I knew how to I knew how to keep out entities, and I knew how to find very compatible beings to run my body for me, they said, ones that were like buddies or like a match. And I could feel that too, that something else was in my body, and it was very similar to me, but it didn't feel like me. And I was just floating above all the time, working all this energy in all these other dimensions that it's too much to describe, and it just has to do with gatekeepers and just the veil that we're dealing with, and just dealing with certain archetypal beings that I met in the physical, because the thing is, whatever's in the physical is also like in worlds beyond. And we all carry, inheritances or we're part of a lineage. So anyway, I just couldn't take it anymore. And so I was like, all right, wherever these energies, whatever they are, I surrender, and I'm just going to sort of follow where the vibration is taking me. So, I end up in the basement of my mom's house living with her, and I'm like, okay, funny. I end up living, maybe my mom really just misses me and she's just doing spells to get me to come home. But my mom might not even know what a tarot card looks like. But anyway, so I'm like living in the basement of my mom, raising my kids. I just couldn't make it. And I knew that I would get back on my feet. I'm a really hard worker. That's one thing I got. And I'll do hard labor. I'll work I'll go out there in the field with, it doesn't matter. So anyway, so I'm in the basement, and I'm like, okay, maybe you should just do something and like meet people and get out of this isolation. And so anyway, so I'm online, and this person sees my writing, and he's like, I've been looking for, he's like, basically, I looked at his profile, and it's all about this person that he's been waiting to meet his whole life for about 20 years or so. And he's like, I have something for you. And I was like, okay. And he's like, and I just need to meet you. Don't be afraid of me, blah, blah, blah. And I saw all his writings, and he was a poet writing about, Christ Sophia stuff. And anyway, so I'm like a little bit freaked out. I'm like, okay, I'm sure I'm safe. And he had a good reputation online, and he just seemed like, people felt good about him. And I could feel the connection, like past lives and just all the archetypes he talked about, like I'm a mythological person. So it's like, of course, Dionysus, I know Dionysus, I'm much more comfortable with mythological characters and politicians. I mean, they are real to me. All these people are like, who the hell are you and why are you here? Mm-hmm. So anyway, I meet up with him at his place, and he's got like these, big books about Dante. He's got like books that, that are just treasures that are artifacts almost. And anyway, so he's just sitting there, and his jaw's to the ground, and he goes into this part of it's like a library, and he goes into like this drawer. He opens it up, and he's just shuffling through all these papers and all these books. He couldn't, I don't know why he didn't try and get to it before I'd shown up, but it was a pretty quick thing. Like when he knew that I needed to come, I came pretty fast. And anyway, I have a labyrinth tattoo, and he was just like, sharing all this stuff about Dionysus and the labyrinth, all this stuff about these mythologies and this thing that he needed to show me, and it connects with the labyrinth and all this stuff. So he pulls out this thing, and he opens it up, and he's just shuffling through all these pages, and it's old. It's like obviously like years old, years and years. And there's all this writing. And this is so mind-blowing. I never talk about this publicly, and this is a huge deal. Like, this is the kind of thing, like, eventually I'm going to talk about this because it has to be talked about. And I don't want people to be like, get caught up in wondering why I'm this character that was delivered to this. But, I'm a universal being that's all about the unified field and all of us. So this is all of us. Anyway, so, oh, my God. So he opens it up, and he's telling me, that it's an interview. And he met Eve, the real Eve. And I'm like, oh, yeah, sure, okay.
Right.
And but I'm reading this thing. And I have a close connection with these archetypes. I know these energies. I just do, And Lee McCloskey's one of my really good friends, and he paints all this stuff, and he knows all these stories. And so how does it come through somebody who used to be a Dallas soap opera star, and his whole upstairs of his house is the whole creation story with all these archetypes? These aren't fake, these things exist. They... obviously we originated somewhere, and it's not actually, Eve. There's other, energies before that. So anyway, she basically has been alive since the beginning, and she has this orb. Basically, it's the Philosopher's Stone, the elixir of life. And shoot, Sorry. It's the elixir of life, and it's considered like, the philosopher's stone, but it's not like, the scientific kind where you create it in a lab. It's like the ingredients are like mother's milk, like a virgin's blood, really like, and it's this orb, and it formed this ball and this orb. And basically, she says she inserts it, where, mm-hmm. and it keeps her alive. And she would have partners, and she would age with the partners. And when they were pretty much on their deathbed, and she would say goodbye to them, she'd put that thing right back in, and she would regenerate and come back to life. And she hasn't died yet. So anyway, they're having a meeting, and they connect in the astral and all these different things. And he's, such a mythical character, and he understands these kind of characters. So it didn't surprise me. And it's it's in another dimension. It's like people, meeting with ETs. Some see them, some don't. It's like these mythologies, they do exist, but some people are just really, it's too much. So anyway, in the interview, he's talking about, she's talking about other people that he's going to meet up with that's going to help him on this path to find this woman. And basically, this so-called Eve is talking about this woman. And so all these four other people were a part of all this, that helped him on his path to understand who this woman was. And so I'm reading this, and Eve is, supposed Eve, is, saying that all these different characteristics. She's drowning in her humanness. She's got blue eyes. She's slender. Everything that like describes me. And there's a lot of people that look like that. So of course he's like.
Did it say dreadlocks?
No, but thick, curly hair, reddish brown, and. But the thing is, for 20 years he had this, and he said, I thought at least 4 different people were this woman, because of course he's going to probably run into somebody who looks like that might have sort of like a esoteric way of seeing the world. And, so there was at least 4 people. And it was just like, then he realized, that there wasn't, anybody. And he cast a huge spell. And when he cast the huge spell, that was when I was 7 years old. And that's when I felt this really crazy energy enter my space, and everything changed. Like my whole life changed. It was like I was trying to like protect myself from something. It was like really freaky, and it didn't feel positive. So anyway, we lined up the dates, and I it's been a while. So if I'm a little bit off, it's just because it's been a while and I don't tell this story. But anyway, we figured out that the spell, because he was a magician, and he basically did white magician, against molesters and criminals. That was his thing. And he had a business card. So he knew all about ritual. And so he, in the year 1980, when I was 7 years old, he did a huge ritual. And he actually used a physical person, but nothing like weird to sacrifice, none of that. He never does that kind of stuff. But he drew out something, and basically the ritual was all about, find me this woman that Eve is talking about and these others are talking about. And so anyway, here I am, finally surrendering in California on the other side of the country. Where do I end up? In his living room. He's showing me this. We're lining up the dates, and realize that the control force that's been on me that I finally couldn't take anymore led me to him. He hands me this book with all this stuff about, what Eve had to say. And here's 4 other people describing this person that he would meet who's drowning in her humanness. And it's just like, okay, the fact that they said that, they're absolutely right, because I'm completely drowning in my I can't function in this reality at all, right? So anyway, I'm not trying to like say like, oh, I'm this, this special person, but I definitely am like a keeper of something that is important for the world. And this is what the interview is about. So of course he goes into a full-on interview with her, is asking about Adam, asking about, all this stuff. And, you would almost think like, and I'm the kind of person that's just like, let me see the bullshit, and every place I can find bullshit, to just say that none of this is real. And I've done this so many times on my path when it comes to just the weirdness of my journey. So this is just a weird thing. And so he says it belongs to you. So I have it. And people have tried to destroy it. People have come and tried to take it away from me. When I didn't have everything just on the computer thing figured out. Now I have it like saved where I need it saved. And I'm like, okay, I got this figured out. But I wrote a 250-page book, and the whole thing got wiped out. That is the only part of the book that I saved and put somewhere safe. That would have been gone, and we never would have it, and it would be wiped off, because he's a hermit. He doesn't care to relate to the public. He would have never published it. Right. He would have he gave up on life. He was suicidal when he met me, and I ended up hanging out with him for a year and a half. it took so long to break the freaking spell. He didn't want to let me go. And it was just like all this manipulation. And then I'm like, yeah, the control force is gone. And I have this interview I'll even show you and just like, look how freaky this is. You'll see the description, and it has to do with Sophia, her two sisters, everything about, what's happening on the planet and, the miserable creator God and things that happened here in this particular earth density. And just, and it all just feels legit. And
for those, Laura, really quick, for those that don't know, who is Sophia?
Sophia is basically considered like the twin flame of Christ. And she's basically like Mary Magdalene, but it's like, okay, we have Jesus and then there's the Christ energy, there's Mary Magdalene and then the Sophia energy. So sort of like their larger self is Christ Sophia, their human self is Magdalene Jesus. So that's basically Sophia, and she's been completely, exiled. We don't hear about her. How many people know of Sophia? And she's a huge freaking deal. I mean, Gaia Sophia has everything to do with the planetary body and this ascension time we're in, the Illuminati and all these dark agendas and all these dark technologies against nature and everything that's happened to the feminine is all to keep us from Sophia. So I'm here to bring her back and awaken her in people. It's not just about one feminine figure. I'm thinking this is all of us. This is the divine feminine within all of us. We all carry Christ consciousness. This is about understanding what our blueprint is. Forget the old religion paradigm. Forget the new age sort of traps. Anyway, so I thought after all this, after I finally broke out of this spell, which was really intense, and there's so much to the story I'm not even saying because we're in an interview and it's like we don't have hours here, but I'm thinking, yay, I got my freedom back and I'm finally like, done with all this. So next thing is the Mars thing. And I'm like, oh my God, that's a whole nother thing. And that's when I surrendered. I could not do anything. And when I let these energies, carry me, it was first him. And then I ended up at a festival in Virginia. And that's when the person approached me who was going to take me to Mars. And I thought he was just a guy that, well, we had an affinity. We had past lives. It was just clear. But I just thought, oh my God, he's wanting to go to Mars. I don't really want to go to Mars. I have a strong mission here. 9 months into the relationship or 6 months into the relationship, I discovered that he was sent on a specific mission and that it was the MJ-12 branch that sent him because he had been working with a group called the Aviary and they were the ones behind the recruitment. And they're the ones dealing with all these technologies. So I went from breaking a spell to finding the source of where all the psychotronic weaponries and all the attacks were coming from. And there was nothing I could find on the web, but I kept searching. And finally I found a link between John Alexander and like all this stuff. Anybody can Google the Aviary and John Alexander and you'll see like the people that I was dealing with, who had pretty much taken my partner in. I was trying to help him and pull him out. And he was under mind control and all this stuff. And they were just trying to get me onto Mars. And so that was the next phase of getting rid of the control energy. And my whole life has really been about breaking free. But the larger picture is about liberating humanity and helping this planet, complete what its destiny is, because it's seeded as an ascension planet, which means that it's a multidimensional energy and it's unfolding and blossoming, but it's going through, it's based on developmental phases. When we are in the higher Lemuria and Atlantis, and we had our full potential DNA activated, the masculine and feminine ended up getting out of balance. We can see Lemuria and Atlantis like the right and left brain. And then it became more leaning towards the male because of some of the dynamics with Lucifer and just all this stuff with the art like going on. And it just ended up, sending out those as above, so below. And when we sank in density, it's been about a battle for the stargates and to control them. And so, all of this is connected. And that's why I do, events and I bring the mythologies in, and I also bring in the exopolitics, and I bring, and I connect all these dots that people might not think, well, how do these things possibly connect? Well, how could they not connect? We're dealing with a web of life in nature. You don't think, what we're experiencing in the cosmos and on Earth doesn't all link up and connect? I mean, we have a right and left brain. So what we perceive, is just what we perceive, and we block out all this other stuff. But when we open ourselves up to it, it's really beautiful and everything connects. And, and so that's what I attempt to do is help people understand, the ET agenda, the negative ET agenda, the benevolent races out there that are kind of like our immune system in a more metaphorical sense, whereas the negative ETs are like the germ, the parasite, the cancer. And we're kind of in the middle deciding, are we wanting to be the white blood cells, or are we wanting to, join in with the cancer cell and annihilate ourselves? And these are the choices we have right now.
Let's back up for a second really quick. How much time elapsed between the book and the readings and the interview and when you were approached about going to Mars? How much time was in between there?
You mean the guy with the book?
Yeah, the magician.
Yeah, the thing. God, not very long at all. Either 4 months, 6 months tops.
Right. And so you're approached. Were the two connected, do you think? The revealing of the interview with Eve, and it just sounds like you were right there. You were marked.
Right. Well, the thing about the Eve is the orb. Nobody can hold the orb. It's especially like you would die. Like there was a lot of goodness there. He was, he's a good person. He's not under mind control. Like he just had ego issues and wanted, just sort of ownership, possession stuff. But he set me free and let me go. And it was, and we had, an interesting time comparing notes because nobody talks about Christ Sophia. And it was just like, oh my God, finally, like, and we just same language, finally, like, and it was just so fun. But, then there was that component of, relationship dynamics. So when it went into this other thing, the character that wanted to take me to Mars that they were using, he was all about the archetypal stuff. He called himself Osiris, Oberon, and Orion, Joseph of Arimathea, and he spoke Gaelic. He's a character. He's an artist, and he worked with his father.
Help me understand this. Was the two of you meeting? Was it disguised as being arbitrary, or how did you guys possibly meet up at a festival of all things?
Well, I mean, I was there just to get away because I was just like I just hadn't done anything. I thought it was all random. I mean, I play drums, and so I was just like, okay, I'm just like hanging out. I'd never get a break from my kids because they were really young, and this was one of my first times. And I'd gone home, and my mom could watch the kids, and I mean, I probably have gone out, but it was just kind of a big deal to get away. And they must have been like tracking it and monitoring it. And I've been, like I said, tracked my whole life. I didn't realize this till later. I mean, I always felt it, but I'm not going to go around, assuming that. I'm the kind of person that like do the inner work, and take responsibility. And I'm not one to blame everything on conspiracy and technologies until so much of it was just like, okay, Anyway, so I went to this festival, and so this person approached me, and, literally I just thought it was just like any normal thing where you just see somebody and you're just maybe want to have a conversation. And anyway, he just kept coming back, and then he's just sort of like, offered me a beer when I drank back then. And we stayed up the whole night and talked. And we had the best time, and we started to see each other. And so we pretty much determined that we were in a relationship. And he was going, because I was living in the basement of my mom's house, he and I were dating. He would pass through DC, and he would go to meetings, and he would visit me after the meetings. And he started to bring me into what the meetings were about. And so this whole time I'm thinking that this is all random, and this, we just met, and there was an attraction, and now I'm finding out about the weird life or job he has. I had no idea that I was specifically targeted, that he was given an assignment to come and pull me in. And when I was with him, I saw the same thing happen. He would get phone calls. There would be something sent to him, like some sort of encoded message, very quick, not even a conversation. He would hang up the phone and disappear for days and pretty much not really remember. He had handlers. He called them handlers. He told me I could have a handler. I'm like, I don't want a flippin' handler. Like, why would I want a handler? Why would I want to go to Mars, And we're going to go to the stars. Yes, I'm all about being cosmic, galactic, and traveling around the stars. Not until we sort out things here on Earth. Not until the human race knows what's going on behind the scenes. Not until real justice happens and these criminals are put in their place. There's no way I'm going to go. But I didn't really have it all figured out then either. So I'm figuring it out as we go along,
What was his, Laura, what was his job?
His job was an alternative vehicle business with his father. And to me, what I ended up finding out was it was a cover job. And a lot of the people in the aviary that were a part of this, that were connected to MJ-12, that are connected to the CIA, they have cover jobs. So you'll see, like, you know, I mean, they still probably do those jobs, but there's a lot going on under the scenes, like, you know, like physicists, you know, but really, like, you know, this person, you know, is connected to, you know, mind control experiments and projects, or, you know, you just don't hear about the stuff that you're not supposed to hear about. And so I would see and go to the office with him, but I'm not seeing anything going on. It just seemed vacant, and it's just like, it didn't seem like a real business that was running. He would be gone with his father at meetings. His father had a military connection, and, you know, and there was just some sort of chipping going on in his family. And, you know, and that can happen to any of us, but, you know, there was something connected to an agenda. And, you know, there's different factions within everything that are connected to different agendas. And
Did he look, I don't want to sound strange with this, but I'm sure you understand. Did he look business-like? Did he have a business, you know, a professional appearance? You know, did he, you know, was it like a disguise, I guess is what I'm trying to say.
Yeah, I just imagine that it has a bunch of photos with, like, you know, longer hair and a beard in the 60s, 70s, because, you know, he's got like that earthy, I mean, he's a really profound, you know, being, you know, in his own right. But, like, yeah, clean cut, office jacket, totally kind of like a different energy, and very, like, troubled personality, like, so, yeah, I mean, it just seemed like, you know, these were cover jobs. And the thing is, they convinced them that they're helping the human race. You know, they don't have he didn't have ill intent. He felt really empowered and really proud of everything connected to this. And I knew he was being played. I knew that, like, because he had an abduction experience, and that's why they brought him into the aviary. And then all of a sudden they're planning this trip to Mars, and he's telling me about this. And I'm thinking, these folks had something to do with the abduction. This was not a real abduction. And I'm not an expert at this time. You know, I'm just learning about this stuff. There's no Project Camelot. There's not a whole lot to go on, you know, and I'm just trying to figure it out. And, you know, pat myself on the back now. I'm like, okay, you know, I'm just glad that, like, you know, my psychic clairvoyant and intuition works, because it really saved me. I had dreams about things that were going to happen that protected me right in the nick of time, and they were totally lucid. And it's just, I got myself out of it, but it was not easy. And they said, you know, he said, if you don't come with us, you know, they're going to take you. They're going to kidnap you. Well, I don't know. Why would you use the word kidnap? You know, that doesn't sound, now it's starting to sound, you know, really, like, even more freaky. So I have even more of a reason to get the hell away. So I moved down the street, and he's still kind of visiting here and there. And then he decides to undo all the electronics in the house so he can tell me kind of what's really going on. And then 2 days later, he denies all of it. And it's just like, you know, it was really wacky. It's just all been wacky. But like, I just, you know, you just put on that I just was kind of navigating in and out of all these different, you know, loops. And
where is he today? Does he still try to contact you? Have you guys been in contact?
No, he's still in North Carolina, I would assume. But I mean, there was major stuff. I had to pull over on the side of the road constantly and lay on the side of the highway because I was being so beamed and attacked. And then finally, I just started talking about what was going on with somebody. And they like I said, they mellowed it out. His parents were both killed. And I found out about, I mean, I was just sort of wanting to see where his whereabouts was a while back. And I saw that because somebody had asked me, somebody wrote me recently and said that he was a neighbor. And he was very haunted and just very mysterious. But yeah, he's definitely around. Actually, he did a post on one of the events, and it was on one of the event posters. And he was insulting everybody. And I just came and said something, and he blocked me immediately. So,
what kind of information? I've heard you talk about this in the past, but for our audience, what kind of information did he reveal to you about the Mars Project and Pegasus at that time?
Well, he wasn't connected with Pegasus. That was Andrew Bashaga. So when I started to connect with Andrew and we started to collaborate, he told me that, you know, there was a pre-targeting and that Project Pegasus was aware of me and that we were destined to be allies in the future. And the Project Pegasus connects with all of the stuff that I was dealing with, but it's kind of like we're all at different parts of the timeline, you know, like he was a child participant in, he was teleporting to Mars and he was, you know, dealing with the time travel technology. And he was like the first kid to I mean, he's pioneering and doing all this really unbelievable stuff. And he was born into it. I mean, it's his father, and and he was in a Mars training program and this and that. This was a little bit different with me. I was set up with like bait, like here's somebody that I found out they use quantum access technologies with us and located us in past lives. So they knew we had a natural affinity, because I'm not going to just fall for some age, it's just, there has to be something, it's not just somebody's just going to do a really good job, like hooking me in. I'm too aware for that. Right. I'm not trying to sound like full of myself here, but anyway, so they pulled this person in. Well, him.
But what's funny is you did get hooked.
No, I'm saying.
No, if you know what I mean, that he did. The deception was pretty good. I mean,
I applaud them. I'm like, man, you guys, you really, you go real far with all this. But so anyway, these quantum access technologies, otherwise known as looking glass technologies, and I believe they are based on cylinder seals, Sumerian cylinder seals, something like that. So they located us in a past life and knew that we had an affinity and felt like he was the perfect bait. And then, he would, approach me and I would feel interested in this whole, we're going to go to Mars and it's for your protection, because that's what he said. And I have emails, that this whole thing is just, a good thing. And it's just a huge deal. And the target date that we're shooting for is 2012. And basically what I learned about looking glass technologies during all this, because I was just on top of this, just researching, following my intuition and gut about not feeling good about these guys that he was working with. Came to discover that looking glass technologies weren't able to see anything or read anything past 2012. So it's like, well, why the hell are we going to Mars if they can't see anything? And it reminded me of when I was in Mexico City and I'm sitting next to the Aztec calendar and they don't know what's going to happen after the fifth sun. So I have a tattoo explaining this whole story, and I'm looking at it, and I'm like, oh, my God, I've written all this down when I was, like, in my early 20s. And it explained everything, and just my children and their astro signs, and it was all, like, before it happened. And because, like I said, I was having dreams. I've been prepared my whole life for this. I had, beings show up when I was a kid telling me, they're going to try and take you away. Don't let them, stay strong in your truth. I know I go on a tangent and then I lose myself a little bit. But
I'm with you. I haven't lost you. I'm right there.
Oh, that's cool.
So okay. So another direct question: did anybody from the aviary, to Falcon or any of those cats, did any of them try to reach out to you directly, or was it only through the alternative car guy?
And this is the deal. And this is what makes it different than these projects. And first of all, these projects are about going in when you're a kid. I think he was involved in a project and they had like something, going on. None of them approached me until afterwards. Then they sort of tried to befriend me and they wanted to, kind of show the world that we were all just sort of like buddy. Cause they, I threw out their names and it just sort of like, whoa, I don't think they expected this, like here's this woman, most men just don't really think much of female intelligence. I think, they're old paradigm type men as far as I'm concerned. I'm not saying all men think like that, but, they're kind of thinking I'm sort of probably like, oh, she's not, she's just a flake, whatever. And it just allowed me to really pull out the goods and it actually really helped me. And I just thank them. Thank you so much because you've really helped me unearth, the things in me that need to come out. And, and they were pissed off. I knew it. Some were especially, but I was on some email threads that they accidentally left me on after they tried to sort of pull me in and make me a little bit of a friend. And they were talking about, the plasma technology they had to create crop circles. I was like, whoa. And, so I didn't really have contact, but Dan Smith, who was sort of an in-between guy between the aviary and just, I don't know, I guess his own life. He met with me. I met with him in Baltimore, and he put me on the phone with one of the guys who's kind of a bigger character in all of it. But the main person I exposed, I could say the name at this point. Who really cares? Hal Putoff, and I know people know him. I'm not saying he's a bad guy. I'm not saying any of these people are a bad guy. The thing is, some people are convincing other people that it's for the good of humanity. And you know what? The agenda kind of used to be, it's a good idea to protect our DNA and to protect the human genome. And you know, we're explorers, and we have the instinct to go off planet. I mean, that's the way it is. We look at sci-fi movies. I mean, we're going to be out in space. We've been out in space. Many of us have had lifetimes in space, and we're here. So that's not the issue. It's just, you know, the way it's being done and who's doing it. And it's been infiltrated. And now it's about the elitists and this technology, a breakaway civilization, and creating new world order on Earth. If anybody's seen The Hunger Games, I would say that it looks a little bit like that. If anybody's seen that other movie with Matt Damon where there's that breakaway sort of looking thing, I would say that it's similar to that. I get really bad ADD when I watch movies because I'm processing constantly. I can watch like an hour and have no idea what's going on. And people might be like, yeah, that sounds like a mental issue. But really, I'm so busy processing, and it never stops. I'd like a switch, but, you know, it's little clues, and it's just, then I'm just like, you know, right. I'm connecting dots. Like it's almost like, it's almost like it's a computer, but it's organic.
Well, also with the aviary, and I'm sure you experienced this, I love your comments on this, they constantly were releasing truth and disinfo at the same time to find out who was leaking information inside of the aviary, who was staying true, who they were sending information to was leaking it, and it was a constant thing that went on for years.
Yes. Yeah, I mean, this is the thing. I mean, you have, you know, very strong people coming from different backgrounds. You know, there's things that there's secrecy going on within it, I would suspect, and there's, you know, you get the ringleaders, and they're manipulating, you know, the people that they might consider below them, and then they pull in kind of the victims, like my mate was. You know, here he is having this abduction experience, and all of a sudden he's hanging out with the aviary. How does that happen? And then he's talking about going to Mars, and he was having these telepathic communications with what he called the patrons. And I'm like, these are not legitimate ETs. And I didn't know anything about a lot of this sort of stuff. And so I'm thinking, this is artificial telepathy. I didn't even really know that I was going to run into that terminology. It wasn't until 2010 that I saw a website that confirmed everything that I felt about these guys. The only thing that I ran into when I was dealing with it was very loosely threaded, you know, based on going through about 20, 30 websites and seeing enough of a link between at least one of their names and these negative technologies. And that was enough for me to say, okay, you found it. This is your piece. And then in 2010, when I started to become public, I decided to Google the name and just to see what's going on with these guys these days. And then if you Google John Alexander and the aviary, you know, it pretty much says a lot about what they're up to, but it doesn't talk about Mars. But I think
it's mainly Project Serpo. And
yeah, but it talks about the gang stalking, the cybertronic weaponry. Yes. It doesn't just talk about Serpo and remote viewing like a lot of the other sites.
Right. Well, also, why do you think the aviary has dropped off the last 2 or 3 years? It seems like, and is that intentional?
I don't know where they ever were to drop off from. I mean, I was just kind of like, what is all this? You know, but it didn't take long, you know, for me to just understand, you know, because this is where Ike has been a guide, you know, probably downloading stuff to me in my brain in my sleep, you know, because he knows all these things, you know, he knows what's going on behind the scenes, and he can see because he's floating around somewhere else, which is helpful. And so it's a difficult, it's the MJ12 thing, and, you know, all of it, there's just so much intel battles, and you know, it's I don't know.
Yeah, totally. Now, a couple of things. I kind of want to change gears a little bit, and also I've got about literally 50 questions lined up here in Twitter that I've ignored all night, and I want to, you know, try to let the audience participate a little bit. If possible, maybe in a little bit, maybe we'll take some phone calls too if we have that kind of time left. I want to back up really quick. With the treaty that Ike had done back in the 50s, all of the talk about the violation of that treaty, who violated it? Was it ET or was it us? Who broke the treaty?
The ETs. But the thing is, none of it, we're not getting the full story. I mean, it's almost like, and this is the hardest part because, and it's kind of like the way it is when we look at our history and Adam and Eve and the seeding of the human race. It's like, there were tons of seedings, there was more than one Adam and Eve, there's so much going on, and we have to understand, there's parallel worlds, there's other timelines, and we're coming in from all over the place. So how can we possibly, come to a conclusion of one truth? We have to kind of respect the fact that we could potentially be living completely different stories. Somebody I got a reading from told me I was president on another timeline. I have a really hard time believing that, but then it's like, how, people talk about me running for president, and I mentioned it on the radio the other day, and, and it's just, I have an open mind, like I said. To me, like, we're in just somebody's screwed up mind, and we're just, we're partially in Gaia's dream, and we're partially in this alien machinery, just, and it's very connected to Lucifer stuff. And then, people get freaked out and think I'm going into biblical stuff, and it's, and it's just, difficult. So can you just ask that question again? I'm sorry.
Who broke the treaty?
Oh, yeah. So, okay. If the treaties originated or were established by Churchill, Hitler, and Crowley, and I think I'm going to get a lot more of this information out so people can just read it. Churchill was the one that sold us out. And this is something that people think Eisenhower did. When the Nordics approached the Nazis and they approached the U.S. government, both sides chose to work with the Greys because the Greys approached them. The reason I think they chose the Greys is because they are excited about the technology exchange, and they don't really care about humans. They are bent on power. The other races, seem to be more about spiritual development. Some Nordic, though, or Pleiadians, not all of them are positive. Not all reptilians are bad, so we have to kind of open our minds a little bit and not just assume everything. Anyway, so when Eisenhower stepped into office, like you said, did he set up MJ-12? I'm sure he had some part in it, but he certainly set up the Jason Scholars, and they are the ones that dealt with Alternative 3, which relates to colonizing Mars. And, if we needed to do that, that was about that, and that got infiltrated. But that treaty got broken as far as, when the Greys approached Eisenhower, first of all, whistleblowers have said, whistleblowers from very places that you can pretty much count on or know the truth, that the treaties are renewed every 10 years. So first it started with Roosevelt, next it goes to Eisenhower. And at this point, they're well underway, the negative ET agenda, the abductions, and the treaty was broken back then, probably with Roosevelt. Certainly Churchill wasn't even caring about any kind of treaty or agreement. He was going to go with whatever they wanted. In actual fact, I think he was very controlled by them and became a lot more corrupted. Hitler became more corrupted and mind controlled. And that's why we can't just go around hating so much. We have to understand we're dealing with mind control. This is why, who cares about, war history? I'm not saying that. I don't want to freak people like, why do you say that? But let's look underneath the surface. Like, let's lift up that rock and look underneath. We're going to see technologies, time travel manipulation. We're going to see all sorts of things, that the rest of it's kind of a facade, not the people that are being killed and the suffering, but what we see as far as who did what and who's behind what and what the power structures are. So anyway, Churchill supposedly was the first to sell us out, Roosevelt then, and then Eisenhower, and I'm not, people might think, oh, well, you're related to him, so of course you're going to try and make him look good. I'm not really that person. I'm just, I'm kind of like a walk-in. I chose to be in this family for a reason, not because I'm an Ike fan, not because I'm, really immersed in this bloodline. I do love him, though. Absolutely fucking, oh, my God, I can't believe I just cussed.
You just dropped enough F-bomb on a family show. Shame.
No, but I didn't even finish it was a fun. Anyway, I just have learned to, really, he could have been anybody, and I just have learned to love him and respect him and appreciate him based on everything I've learned. So I didn't start off with a biasness. I was bent on exposing the truth no matter what. And I just ended up finding out, oh my God, at first it looked really not so good, as far as selling us out and this and that. And I was still I'm still going to share it. We need to know this. And then I just found out more and found out more. Basically, by the time Eisenhower was dealing with it, they considered it a surrender. They first met up with the Nordics, and I guess the Nordics, they didn't reach an agreement, and they were deliberating, trying to figure it out. of course, we're dealing with the end of the Cold War and all this bomb stuff, nuclear stuff. And, everybody's got to sort of figure out, I don't know about everybody, but I know that a part of his thing was you got to step back and see what their intentions are. It's not just about, saying yes to some race showing up and saying, we promise you this if you do that. I mean, that's what, the problem has been with a lot of things. So they needed some time with it. But then the Greys showed up, and then it got, threatening, because when they showed up, it seemed that there was some sort of threat involved. I wrote a big article, you can find it on my website, about all the whistleblowers and all the different things and sort of comparative notes. And I can share my website at the end, and it's many, many pages. But Dan Burrish, he's a whistleblower who worked with MJ12. He's a microbiologist, worked with, the Greys, one that had gotten left behind after a crash. There's been numerous crashes. I don't quite know which one. And, I'm not really good at, retaining some of the factual stuff, depending. Sometimes it's just like, whoa, it's just very easy. It's just, it's a process to just be fluent. There's so much to all this. Anyway, the remote viewers discovered that Greys were future human selves time traveling back. And basically, what would be the natural theory then? They're time traveling back to get their own genetic material, because the way they presented themselves to Eisenhower and the people Eisenhower was with was that they needed our help. They're a dying race, and all they would do is abduct a certain number of people. But the thing is, they were already doing that, like with the Roosevelt Treaty and what Churchill had set up, and there was no talk of that. So it's almost like it was starting fresh in the way it was presented. So, a lot of people were waking up. Eisenhower was realizing the gravity of what was going on and what had been going on. And of course, we got that speech. So the treaty was, the same sort of treaty that they got, that Roosevelt got, about the number of people that would be abducted. And it was just basically, they just needed it for experimentation. And so when you have that, and then you have somebody like Dan Burr saying that these are future humans, time traveling back, I'm kind of like, okay, well, what gets spit out of that, merging? Right. That we're going down a very dangerous path, and we're losing, a lot of who we are if we don't develop ourselves spiritually and soulfully. And we are going to end up like Greys, and we're going to be time traveling back, wanting help from the human race to be okay. And we got to stop this time loop, and we have to make decisions now that choose, our advancement. I mean, we've got underground crystal cities. We've got the ability to become ascended masters again. And, why the hell would we want to become Greys? I mean, and they made choices that were based on, choosing power. And so later on in the future, not being too happy with their choices, knowing that they couldn't ascend past a certain point because they're not, they're not connected to source. They've been vampiring off of us and needing us to keep their life cycle alive. So their life cycle is this sort of time travel, take our stuff, sort of rebuild themselves, but not really get any further than that. And that's why they want to keep this time loop imprisoned and keep us enslaved, because they have nowhere else to go. So
didn't Peniston say the same thing about Rendlesham, that download that he received? They weren't, from off planet. They were actually from the future.
Yes. Wait, what was the first part you said? I'm sorry.
Jim Peniston, he said that when he touched the craft out at Rendlesham, Bentwaters out in the UK, that he got the download that came to him said that that they weren't ET from off planet, that they were actually us from the future coming back.
Okay, good. So and I actually, yes, that's very familiar. I just the name kind of got lost to me. So this is the deal, and it's just amazing how people are just like, that is the craziest thing I ever heard, and it's just like, okay, calm down. Dan Burrish, just check him out. Ron Garner's a good friend of mine. He's got the Stargate Productions website. He is written a book about it now. I mean, he's Dan's champion, and he really describes everything and he's going to help everybody to understand this. But so, breaking the treaty really never was, it was broken, before they even tried to create the treaty, because they had already done that with, Roosevelt and it just was like a setup. And, and of course it appeals to the heart, like, okay, you're a dying race. And, and then maybe, so, okay, this is the thing now. We have choices. And, to me, it's like we could head in the direction of, this whole Mars timeline and digressing, into these gray forms, even though our heads would get bigger and we become more, intellectually advanced. We really this is the time to really just make sure that we're on the right track. I see it almost like Grand Central Station, and there's a bunch of trains that are taking us, where we wouldn't want to go, and and then there's the magical train, and whatever, what I mean? It's just everything's just sort of converging, and the thing is, we're witnessing and noticing all these other timelines, and so we're freaking out, thinking that it's going to happen to us. And we just have to pull ourselves out and remember we're in charge of our reality. We're co-creating this. We're dreamers. We've got unbelievable abilities. We're in a window period where our DNA is upgrading, and they're just wanting, and we know it's all about that distraction. And the thing is, they want a catastrophic timeline because the Greys, are kind of the enslaved humans, because they're under the reptilian control, which is like the royalty, the royal family, and some of these power people that are basically it's almost like ETs are in those bodies, with all the trauma-based mind control and the Illuminati. We're not really dealing with necessarily those humans. Like, that's not the Queen anymore. That's not George Bush. And so the Greys have been somewhat under their control, and that could very well be us after we've been enslaved by them. It could be all sorts of scenarios. We're dealing with many different species. There's tons of different species of reptilians and Greys. So we have to consider some might be the time traveling ones and some might be different. People have different contact experiences where they're getting a lot of different, sort of communication. And
you said, Laura, you said earlier that you approach everything as a skeptic. And one of the things that I know that you deal with every single day are the skeptics and the debunkers. And what's your answer when they come to you and say, where do you get this information from?
Oh, God, yeah, prove it.
Right.
Just, what more proof do you need? And do you want me to prove that's a tree? Like, there's a certain point where something is so real that when you it's just, how can you prove something that's already proven itself? Then you're really losing, when you have witnesses, when you have markings on people, when you have people that are all drawing the same picture, when you have millions of people telling the same sort of stories, what more do you want? Just because you can't see something, it's like, we already know that there's so many waves of energy that we can't see based on the electromagnetic spectrum. So, I mean, even science, gives us some of this, but we know we have a right and left brain. We know we have a creative side. Anyway, so what do? I mean, where am I a skeptic first off? I'm not so much a skeptic. I believe everything exists. I have an open mind to all of it. And how can something not exist? I mean, look at the world we're in. So that doesn't make any sense to me. Everything to me exists because we're dealing with the creative imagination, source energy, the primordial sea of chaos can pretty much birth anything. We're dealing with 7 different universes. I can't prove this stuff, but when you research enough and you see the common thread in many different sources, it's like, okay, I'll kind of lean towards this, and I do muscle testing. What is the wisdom of my body? What is the wisdom of my body saying? Is it in agreement to this? And if it's in agreement, then I will share it with people. Otherwise, I wait and I sit with it and I sit with it and I sit with it, and it has to line up. Like, if science says this, it has to match something that might actually be mythological or, astronomical or it all has to make sense. So we're appeasing the right and left brain. We're taking care of all the many archetypes in us, and we're learning to not reject or deny any part of who we are in the process. And it's a huge way to wake up. And so people, what I do is I have a lot of compassion first off. If they're really rude to me, I have to hold back because I'm sort of like, I have an instinct at times. I don't know, I have this, and people, maybe they expect sort of like love and light all the time. And I'm not saying I'm love and light all the time. I really have to hold back from wanting to punch and just the thoughts that I have sometimes towards these people, but when I see the words that come out, if I take the time to even comment, most of the time I ignore it because that's the smartest thing to do. Most of them are trolls.
Right.
But when I really feel like this person is crying out, and this is probably a real person, I have somewhat of a responsibility to help them process the information I'm putting out there. If they're respectful. If they're not respectful, you're not going to probably get anything from me at all. And if you get me on a bad day and I see it, oh my God.
Right?
Yeah, the volcano's going to blow and warn the villagers. It's just not, and then I delete and I'm like, okay, that was not maybe the best move, but come on. It's like, I'm sick of everything being put in a box. Like it has to all be love and light, it's okay to run some fire. It's okay to put people in their place. And, as long as you're not insulting and derogatory to the point of really getting in there and psychologically tweaking them, but you're just, saying come on, and you're just trying to open their eyes. And yeah, if there's a little fire there, fine. I take that approach sometimes.
So when you met Rita and I last weekend at Conscious Life, I caught you on a good moment because you were pretty nice.
Oh no, I'm a loving person. But going through a breakup, we're back together. But when things are just, if I haven't slept and I just come across a YouTube video and somebody's calling me a stupid whore,
yeah,
something I can't even believe I used that example. I'm like, out of all of it, but anyway, then it's just are you kidding me? Anyway, so I figure a lot of them are trolls and don't feed the trolls. But you know what? Sometimes just intuitively I feel this person's having a tough time. They can't process the information. And these are what my services are. I do readings. I do sessions. If somebody's desperate, I do it for free. I'm not here to make a ton of money. I have just enough to live on. And it's hard to, pay my bills. I'm not complaining. I'm just saying I'm not rolling in the dough here. But what I do is I have a sliding scale. If somebody's really desperate and in a crisis, I'll do anything I can to be there for them. But I can't promise anything because sometimes I'm not okay and I need to just take a breath. Hold
on. I need to jump in here real quick. Because we're talking about this right now. Status Unknown wants to know, what's your zodiac sign?
I'm a Libra.
So am I.
Nice.
Wow.
Yeah. Harmony, justice, love, and peace. And, so.
That's me.
Yeah. And I guess that, I just have a different approach to different people. And I just sort of sense it depends where I'm at, but this is the whole point of doing readings and doing session work with people. If you can't handle the information, give me a call, ask me questions, let me see where you're at and let me help you. Why all the hatred? It's just it's not about me shoving this information in anybody's face. It's just, let's just look at things that we didn't learn in school and start to awaken the cellular memory and our own, intuition will guide us from there.
Let's jump into a couple of current event things. We have this thing going up in Manitoba, Canada. I don't know do you have any information on that with this crash retrieval of this saucer over the last couple of days?
I've heard a little bit about it. Any thoughts yourself?
Just like anything else, when you hear reports of this, and then you get the mass media disinfo coming in from the other side, we just don't know. Not until somebody from Canada, from Manitoba, calls into my show and says, I've been out there, or it didn't happen, or it did happen. I just don't depend on the mass media or the information coming in. You just don't know what to believe. I need to trust a friend that is up there,
Yes. I can't watch. But I do, just to observe, just to see what people are being fed, and then, contrast it with what's going on, in the feed, because a lot of the Facebook people, it's so fun. I just never expected. I just sort of step away from just sort of the way it sort of looks and how annoying some of it can be, and just kind of take all that away and just look at what we're doing. It's just amazing, how we're all coming together, even though there are annoying elements.
Yeah, I kind of feel the same way. And how do you feel? I did a whole week on this last week. I had thrown in the towel on this mass media ISIS thing. I was like, okay, they got me. They beat me into the ground. Okay, I can't take it anymore. What do you think about what's going on over there? Are we on the edge of the cliff? Are we about to, take the plunge? Or is this just another Illuminati mass media push for, the status quo to lean one way or the other?
Well, I think it's kind of like a dream warfare. I mean, we're creative beings, you know, we can dream with Gaia, just such a beautiful world. And when we get sucked up into this stuff, you know, all that energy that could be dreaming a beautiful existence, you know, starts to almost enable those things to persist. And it sinks our energy. And usually, you know, it happens when there's about to be a big leap in consciousness. And, you know, there's people all over this planet that need to be saved, you know? And so I don't know how to focus on one area. It's like everywhere I turn, it's just like, oh my God. And I know there's significance to that particular one. And I could go like into all that, you know, connecting to stargates and just the things that go way back into our ancient history. And actually that connects to Sophia. It's amazing how much it's hidden that's so connected to what a lot of the battles are about, just to keep us from that, just to keep us from, you know, and pushing people into this sort of, I mean, I don't understand it. And war that's connected to anything that has anything to do with God or religion. I mean, at this point, I stay away from all of it. I don't have a TV. You know, I watch, you know, whatever on Netflix, and God, I haven't really been following. And I know at a certain degree, I feel a responsibility to just know what the heck's going on. But for my own sanity for the last couple months, just because I've been just going through a lot, I've just had to step away. And now that I'm feeling stronger, it's like, all right, I'm going to, you know, just go into observer mode and just catch up with everything. And then I'll be much more able to just share my thoughts and opinion. But, you know, it's just,
you know what's funny? I have to do that. I feel like I go through that like every 2 days. I need to get caught up, and then I take a day off. The mass media has a way of polluting your brain and clouding your thought. It just does. That's what they do. You know, it's all based on fear. Everything is every headline on every news channel, just click it on. It's all about death, murder, guns, war, disease, the latest uncurable. You know, it's just like the craziest thing, and it's totally depressing to me. I almost can't deal with it, and I have to. I'm a radio show host, and I have to do it, and it kills me. It just wears me down.
I know, and I get it. Oh my gosh. I mean, I can't believe how sometimes it's just, wow, I really let that get to me. And, you know, I can look at chemtrails now and allow it to actually empower me. And I know that sounds twisted. How's that possible? Because I remember, like, you know, obviously they're doing this because we're incredibly powerful. We have an incredible destiny, and they want to stop it, and they can't. So thank you for reminding me of that. You know, as far as nature, like I said, I know this is a multidimensional body. I can see the other worlds that don't have this issue going on, you know, that are connected to her. And, you know, this is a experience here to teach us and to help us with soul development. And, you know, we have free will to a certain degree, and then, you know, we kind of don't. It's sort of an illusion. And as far as the tree of knowledge, learning about good and evil, it's not really fair when there's a lot of mind control. So all of it is just destructive and toxic. But yes, I want to know what's going on. So when people ask me about it, I can, you know, share. But all I can really say is this is just how I view reality. And I will get back into just sort of keeping myself updated. But I've had to sort of really step away. And I know that, God, with you doing it all the time, you know, it's got to be just, you know, a lot. But
it's brutal. It's brutal. But you know what? As they say, the show must go on. And it's as your parents, our parents will always tell you when you complain about life, you know, they immediately come back with, well, it's the life you chose. Okay. You know, that's what, well, you know, I can't really complain.
Stupid quotes together. I'm sorry.
What's that?
I said, did they just sit around and just come up with stupid quotes together?
Yeah, right. I'm telling you. All right. Here's Jeffrey wants to know, do you believe in life after death?
Oh my God, I'm so much more alive in the afterworld while I'm sitting in this body. I mean, like I said, I journeyed into places that are beyond this sphere. And, you know, and I don't like to say I was told. I'm just afraid if I say I did, people will say, oh, that's crazy. And if I say somebody, you know, confirmed this and validated it, maybe I'd be taken seriously. But, you know, and so it's a tough thing, you know, when I just want to say, this is what I did. This is who I am. But I feel like I have to say, somebody backed up and confirmed that this is what I did. So it's both. I went through the whole death process and returned to my body, and if you Google the illusion mysteries, I don't even know if I'm saying it right. They used to do this in ancient times. They used to induce snake bites and do all sorts of things to go into the zone of death to master the death. Christ and death and resurrection was way more about that than the crucifixion. I mean, we have to understand that these stories are manipulative, they are disempowering, and what it really comes down to is that we're learning how to, go into the realm of soul and allow ourselves to die and be reborn. And we can do that within one body. So I know that there is a lot beyond. Oh my gosh, geez, there's life everywhere. Death is a journey. It's an initiation. It's not an end. And, it's a new beginning when we transition. And, when our loved ones transition, they're right there with us. There are guides. And Eisenhower's so busy still. He's not off smoking a pipe in heaven. He's totally really helping all of us. And he's I've run into psychics that had no idea I was related to him. And they said, okay, I walked into a room where a group of psychics were, and they said, Eisenhower's in the room. Nobody knew my name. Wow. I wasn't even using that last name. And I was like, I went up to them towards the end and I said, I'm related to Eisenhower. They said, oh, yeah, well, he's, we were going to say he's right there. He's always there. He's always been there. And I was like, I know, I've always felt him there. And then I've had people say oh, Eisenhower showed up while I was taking a shower and was really worried about that Mars roundtable you were doing and wanted to tell, and he said, tell my little Laura, just to, I don't remember what it was, but tell my little Laura to just, be very careful and just to know I'm with you, and it's I can hear these things, but then I think, oh, maybe I'm just projecting this. I'm great at reading people, but when it comes to my stuff, it's just I'm very careful and I like to get, feedback from others to make sure that I'm not projecting on myself or creating some delusion. And it's been helpful. And that's where I guess I meant when I was saying I was a skeptic, but I'm not skeptic like some people are, very closed off. I'm not that, but I like to step back and I like to look at all angles, particularly before I speak about something. You know what I mean?
Yes, I do. This comes in from Arturo. He's a fate or not. And he's saying, when people discuss Laura Eisenhower, they always think about time travel. Have you time traveled?
This is my association with Andrew Bashago, and it's funny because...
yeah, you can't shake it, can you?
No, because it's everybody, because I'm associated with him, they screw up our stories. I time travel just as a being, organically. I mean, I have dreams where I close time loops. I have plenty of readers telling me, I've negotiated with time travelers to protect certain things in history, like I said before. I know that I bounce all over the place. That's what, this journey was about that I was telling you about. It's beyond time and space and it shifts timelines. The whole thing was about timelines, and when you work with timelines and you're working with, stargates and everything like that, there's a component there that is beyond, this reality, the 24/7, the 365 days, I'm kind of functioning on the 13 moon calendar and I bounce all over the place, let's just say. But no, I don't use technologies. I haven't been in any projects. But yeah, just somebody wanted me to go to Mars and I found out a lot of reasons why and what might have happened. Some sounded really pretty cool and some sounded really horrible. The only thing that sounded cool, which I don't even want to say because it just sounds like, oh, you're so full of yourself. It's so hard to say anything anymore without people maybe thinking I'm coming from a weird place. But because of my past lives and stuff and the history of Mars and times of Egypt and lifetimes that I had there, there's something of a connection I have there. And there's indigenous beings there that I think would have really appreciated me. But when you're talking about the Mars colonies and the people there and being sort of in their hands where they're controlling you, it's a different matter. So I'm going to go there on my own terms. But there's a lot of different stories and reasons. Anyway, I'm kind of going off on a tangent.
No, you make perfect sense. And I think, Arturo is asking in a very direct sense, have you time traveled? And you're absolutely right. People confuse the story, and there you go. No, you answered it. This comes in from Kumar's Kiani, and she says, can you ask Laura if people of the future have been messing around with our time tracks. I'm asking this question because there are crazy things such as similarities between JFK's assassination and Lincoln's. How is it possible unless they have access to time travel and manipulation? I think you addressed this a little bit earlier, actually.
Yeah. Okay. I've sort of kind of lost focus a little bit on the question, and I'm so sorry. Can you just kind of read it again?
But our time travelers from our future messing with us, coming back here and messing with us with genuine knowledge of past events and the similarities between events like JFK's assassination and Lincoln's. Are these manipulated from time travelers from our future?
Absolutely, I would say so. I mean, the problem is it's so hard to prove anything, but I mean, it's so well worded what he just said, and it's just like, yes, that's it. And there's documentation, there's things about Eisenhower that people are giving to me in 2015 saying your great grandfather did this, and I'm like, really? Why now is it coming out? After Project Paperclip and the Nazi infiltration and just Montauk and all this different stuff and utilizing time travel, believe me, our history is being rewritten, and it's being rewritten in their favor. And they're trying to completely turn it around so that we turn into a Nazi America, and people are all about Hitler because they're getting what they think is the real history, and they're not. I've worked with mediums and psychics and all sorts of people. This is not just what I wish and hope for because, it sounds better. I've gone out of my way to get readings done to look at this stuff. And, I just got a reading. Okay, there's rumors about Eisenhower with the German death camps. And I'm like, this doesn't resonate, and even if I wasn't in the family, this has nothing to do with being biased. It just doesn't resonate. I'm like, all I could think about was, time travel manipulation, time travel technology, from the future, coming in, going into the past, manipulating stuff. We see it, and then we believe it. Our kids learn about it, and it changes our generations in the way that we view reality. And so anyway, in the reading, she said he never, ever commanded any innocent person to ever be harmed. And this person doesn't have to say anything. And
Sure.
She tells people, she tells it like it is. And, if anybody wants to write me and say, well, who is this person? If they need clarification or to see if this person's legit, go for it. I'm an open book. I'm transparent. I'm here to help people. If you struggle with any of my information, I make myself available, and then I do sessions and readings. So that's pretty much the best I can do.
I want you to say hi to my good friend Dino. I didn't open up the phone lines tonight, but Dino's been very persistent. Dino, say hi to Laura.
Hi, Laura. Hi, Jimmy. I'm back to 100%. I haven't called in a week. Now, Laura, I want you to take this in the right way. A lot of the Fadernauts are Libras. I'm a Libra with a Taurus moon. Where is your moon sign?
Scorpio.
Oh, I knew it. Opposite to mine. Okay, here's the constructive criticism I have. You're relatively new on the circuit here, and I've seen some of your things on YouTube, and you have very interesting things to say, and you have the draw of Eisenhower's name, another great Libra who I think was a fair leader. What I would think that I would find more interesting, because you cover such a broad, range of subjects, right, that I would like to know each time you bring up a subject what your personal involvement is. Like when I found it very interesting tonight, for example, when you were mentioning, how you were trying to be recruited for Mars, but then you would go off to something else. I found it quite interesting, for example, that you do certain readings and that you have ways to keep in touch. For me, I find it more interesting when you stick to what you personally know and tell us how you know it and how you know about the alien contracts, for example, because there's so much information. And when I was younger, I used to speak like you myself, too, because I had so many things coming into my mind. So that's what I want to ask you. Can you bring it a little closer to home, some of the subjects you've breached tonight on the program, and tell us personally how you were involved with those? That would really be interesting.
Thank you so much, Dino.
Thank you.
Personally involved in just the facets of all the different things I share?
Yeah, I think what Dino was saying was that we just talked about so many different things and we didn't stay on one thing and go deep. But that's fine. And
I think, maybe somebody else is like, I'm so glad you did it that way. And everybody's going to have their opinions, but I really appreciate, what he shared. I did mention on my website, I wrote a very long paper about everything about the ET government treaties that I could possibly figure out and know. And, things about, the Mars agenda. And, for me, I love bouncing around a little bit. I'm sure for some people it's difficult, but I want, people to understand me personally and things about my life experience, because my life experience is what brought me into, investigating these subjects. I wouldn't go down this path if I hadn't been thrown into like this cosmic out of the body, experience for more than 20 years. Or if, Ike wasn't by my side ever since I was a kid, or if I hadn't seen that weekly world news thing. And one of the complicated things about me is I'm very much about the mandala. There's intricacy, there's the mythology, the exopolitics, the personal story, the Mars recruitment, which shows that there's what operates a little bit behind closed doors. And sometimes it births something so simple that it's so worth, some of that complication. But sometimes it can make a person's mind spin in so many directions that I feel for people that, might, come from where you're coming from. And so I do my best. I can only really be myself. I can't really train to be any different. But I do appreciate, meeting the needs or appease, what's the word? Doing things that really kind of focus in. So if you ever want to send me an email and you kind of have a nice vision or idea, maybe I can do a YouTube video and I can just, kind of give thanks for a great idea that maybe a lot of people will appreciate because, you might represent the way many people are thinking. So just know that I'm accessible in that way. And if I don't answer emails, feel free to say, hey, Laura, where are you? Because I travel sometimes and I miss stuff. But, I really just want us to work together and, I want to address, every avenue and meet as many diverse needs as possible if I can.
JTG just tweeted, who was the author of the book about Dan Burrish?
Ron Garner, and it's his birthday today.
Oh, happy birthday, Ron.
Yes.
There you go.
Garner.
Yeah, we know Ron. Okay, there it is, Ron Garner. A couple of other questions. Let's see. Laura, are you aware of the so-called Council of Five Species and the aliens who protect humans from malevolent alien species?
There's like so many councils at this point that I've sort of lost track, and I only gravitate towards certain channelers just because, like I said, use my body as a muscle tester. I'm not very aware, but if you were to talk about it a little bit more.
Who's a channeler that you follow?
I don't follow anybody, but I don't know what following means so much. I read the articles of a newsletter that comes out once a month. And that's pretty much where it's at for me because I love her information. It's Lisa Renee, and her website's, of course I'm going to give mine. It'd be funny if I gave her and didn't give mine. It's energetic synthesis.com. And we just are incredibly connected. Our work is very parallel. We share a lot of the same things. She covers negative ET stuff, Christ Sophia stuff. She's a clear channel. She's an amazing person. And she's I consider her a really good friend. And her website's amazing. She's done so many newsletters. Her website's interactive. And so when I need to just clarify something, if I'm getting a hit, if I'm just feeling something, that's a good place to go. For the most part, I like to just listen to myself. But, it's grounding to just, Google and see that somebody else out there agrees. And then I might quote them in a presentation. I'm going to be doing things different this year. I might not even do hardly anything of a PowerPoint. I'm just going to speak right from my heart,
Is that what you're going to do at Contact in the Desert? You're just going to let it roll?
Before. Yeah, I've done that before, and I just find that, it really engages the audience. It's just I've put the information out that I resonate with most, so I'm not going to do that again. And now it's just it's really about the new paradigm, building the new paradigm, empowering leaders to, move away from the governments and start, a system based on unity consciousness and sort of dissolving the hierarchy into like, really looking at what we each, are bringing to the table. And then for those that maybe feel lost and are kind of struggling to find it, there's so many support teams to just help people to really wake up to who they truly are. I mean, this is really a time of rehabilitation and really doing it right, really getting on track, steering the ship in the right direction. I mean, I'm seeing the ship go. It's like, those cartoons, like where the ship's about to go over that big freaking like fall. And then all of a sudden, like, I don't know, like the Justice League, or Aquaman show, somebody shows up. So me and my friend Madison, we have the Justice Twins because she came over and we did this. We were just sitting there with these visions. And then all of a sudden it was just like Justice Twins activate, like Wonder Twins. And so it's like, okay, it's time to put our superhuman suits on. And like, this is the time. And everybody's got it in them. We all have it in us. And, I'm just so excited, and it's been so heavy and it doesn't need to be. I mean, it's a lot easier than we think. It's just a matter of where we focus our attention. And we're dreaming this reality. So
you mentioned, I've got so many questions. I feel like I'm cutting you off. Did I just cut you off?
Oh, no. I was just, I remembered something that like I lost track of earlier, but let's just keep moving.
Okay. Beverly just said, you mentioned earlier about past lives. So you believe in reincarnation?
Oh my God. I mean, it's beyond a belief, it's like, how is somebody just so aware of something that is just so unique to them that spans beyond the incarnation or the life that they were born into? I mean, there's no question or doubt. I mean, I read past lives. I am completely aware of my past lives. I don't talk about them. I mean, I have before. I don't know if it really does much to freak people out or not freak them out. I don't know, or reassure them that you're in good hands as far as, I mean, I'm not raising myself above here, but like, I want to get the ball rolling. It's like, it's like somebody saying, let's throw a party. And then everybody says, yeah, let's come to the party. But we all have gifts to bring. I'm making sure that, we just keep the momentum alive. And a lot of us are doing that. And that's what's so wonderful. But of course I believe in past lives. I mean, there's mates that we run into again. Familiarity. It's like our children. It's just like, going to certain locations. It's just, there's so many things. And it's difficult for some people on a belief system level, but it's just, it's as natural to me of understanding as waking up in the morning. I mean, this reality is way weirder to me than the concept of past lives. I can make more sense out of past lives than waking up in this freakoid place.
What about deja vu, Laura? I'm a big deja vu guy. How do you deal with that? Do you embrace it?
Oh, yeah. I embrace anything that, oh my God. Yeah. I mean, I love it when those moments happen. Sometimes, sometimes just really bizarre things happen where, I feel, time is doing weird things or a timeline shifted or, I'm very sensitive and there's subtle things that happen. Sometimes I wake up and I'm like, somebody was time traveling and, and that was funny because of the caller, who asked about time travel. I believe in everything, like I said, but, there's some things that are organic and some things that are artificial, but everything artificial is an imitation of what's organic. And if we have an imagination, anything is possible. And so everything in the imagination can eventually manifest. And so with the billions of years that we've been existing and beyond that many years, believe me, everything that could possibly exist exists somewhere. So I believe in everything. I mean, and I give people the respect of whatever experience they have. Yes, there are imbalances. There are things that we have to watch out for. There's all sorts of things. And as an astrologist, I understand it on a planetary body level. Neptune, for example, is the planet of multidimensional energy. It connects with our creative imagination. Musicians and artists connect with it. But it's also, the planet of addiction and losing oneself in sort of madness and delusion, And the thing is, when there's a glitch in our imagination, and we can haunt ourselves or we can freak ourselves out. And that's what this Matrix is attempting to do. That's what the Illuminati wants to do. It's dream warfare. It wants us to, dream something else other than what is, a part of our DNA and what's encoded in the core of the planet, in the sun, within this planet. So, it's already there, everything.
This Mars One project, privatization of traveling to Mars and the volunteers that have been chosen, that has been well publicized this week. When and if that happens, what are they going to see when they get to Mars? You know what I mean? Is the secret space program going to get blown out of the water, and Andrew Basiago is going to be proven right? And what are they going to see when they get there?
I mean, okay, first off, people, when you say who's going there, who did you say was going to be going there?
Well, they had 100.
Contest.
The contest.
Sorry.
Right.
I have to get this thing out of my head. I have a client having a crisis for a second, and I just got distracted for a moment. I'm so sorry. Okay. Well, supposedly there's like 5 colonies there. Supposedly there's something that was nuked there. For anything Mars related, I would Google Randy Kramer and his other name, Captain K. I've never been to Mars. What I think you'll find is that there's enclosed areas underground. There's a lot going on underground. There's indigenous races that people are going to be guarding the colonies from. You're probably going to be sitting there going, what the hell did I do this for? And I don't know. And maybe some people are going to love it, but we're not dealing with maybe Jupiter would be better. I mean, Mars has all sorts of crazy stuff going on, and a lot of the problems that we're dealing with on Earth exist on Mars too, because we haven't solved it. It's not like we're going to Mars and this is where the utopia is going to be in a new Eden. We're dealing with Illuminati stuff. We're dealing with shadow government stuff. We're dealing with where we've been lied to and where there's been secrecy and where there's been infiltration. And these people don't know what they're getting into, and I wish they would Google around a little bit and maybe say hi to me. But I think, maybe this is another false flag. If they can do school shootings and have actors, maybe they have like this whole thing just to make us think that a group are going to Mars. I mean, who knows? I don't trust anything. But what would they find? Probably a planet that's almost terraformed or being terraformed. Both Andrew and Randy said that, there was a blue sky. They were both able to breathe. But they're definitely, like, when we look at the Mars pictures, there's a lot of desert. Andrew talks a lot about some really weird creatures. Captain K has battled so many, creatures, and he's had his limbs blown off so many times and grown back by the technologies they have there. I mean, it's unbelievable. So I don't know, like, I can't even imagine. It's like some reality show. I can't even believe it.
Yeah, you bring up a really good point, though. Could it be some crazy false flag that this mission is or isn't real? Certainly, with a secret space program that has been going on for a long time, the last thing they want is I said it again incorrectly, a private mission financed and going to Mars, because then if there is something going on, we would then find out about it.
Exactly. To me, when I look at the people, and this is what I love. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off.
No, but I guess my point is, what you just said, maybe all of that isn't real too. That's a really good way to look at it.
Yeah, I mean, I don't see anything in the news is real. I mean, it's ridiculous. I look at these people and just doing readings so much, and just, like I said, just really working on being sensitive enough to really just pick up on these subtleties. I realized, like, I need to really just do that all the time, because it really, helps. But then there's the sensitivity of, why am I crying? That's a different kind of sensitivity. But I look at these people, and they don't look authentic at all. I can just feel it in their energy field. They look like, the things that they're saying, bullshit. Sorry, bullshit meter's going nuts, because it's like, I'm leaving my girlfriend, or I'm leaving my mate and my child behind, like some hero, just to go off and do this. And just the way that they word things, none of it feels real to me. But, I'd like to meet these people.
Yeah, that's a really good point. I mean, I wanted to ask Story Musgrave, and I'm certainly going to do it at Contact in the Desert. It's one thing to jump in the space shuttle and cruise around in orbit around Earth, but would you, volunteer to go to Mars knowing that you are not coming back?
That's ridiculous.
Right, and you're
false flag to completely distract us from all of us exposing what's really going on Mars. And it's just like Monica Lewinsky and Bill Clinton to cover up all the craziness that's going on. It's like that's all they do is find a cover story, and they'll keep doing it. And I can't even imagine what it looks like, just them sitting around the table trying to figure out the next way to screw us all over and deceive us. It's just like, what a screwed up life. I mean,
yeah, it's kind of like a troll. If you, how can you exist, going around with all of this baggage hanging off of you, and your only motivation to getting up in the morning is to go out and try to make somebody's life miserable? I mean what is yeah, exactly.
It's the villain. This is what I love, though, because when we look at it like archetypally or like mythologically, this is why I kind of weave in myth. There's always a villain. There's always sort of like, you're brought to the brink of death. The kingdom almost collapses, and then it's happily ever after in sacred union and the king and queen. And, and this is our story, and we live these stories, and they're encoded in us. And there's always, not always, not in other worlds, but there's that villain that just sits there. And right now, Hillary Clinton's that villain to me. And she's got tentacles and she's got branches. And if we pull her out, it's like all this other stuff is going to come out too. And for some reason, I thought it was somebody else, but it's really like it's her.
Oh, man. Well, and the other picture that you paint for our future, and we can certainly wind things down with this, you are the glass is half full. That we're maturing as a world, as a species, as a race, as a consciousness, and our future is bright. It's not dark.
Our future is so incredible. I've seriously, nothing has ever made me feel like, oh my God. I have, moments where, it's like, it's more like, oh my gosh, we're leaning into some, really, dangerous territory. This is a very critical time based on where the stars are at. The 2012 window period. I mean, when we crossed through that, I can't even tell you. I could tell you so many stories about how significant it was. People are like, nothing happened. I'm like, are you kidding me? The fact that nothing happened as far as, what could have happened is a good sign, but a lot did happen. I did my cards the whole way through, and something unbelievable happened, like right at the critical point, right at the peak. And maybe, I don't know, I could, if anybody wants to know that story, I can share it some other time, of course, but there's nothing but goodness because it's inevitable. The inevitable can be delayed. It can be somewhat suppressed. You can't put a lid on a volcano, I like to say. This is spirit we're talking about. And, we have a divine mother, energy in this universe. How can that not be the case? Look at the beauty of look at a bunny rabbit. I mean, look at just the flowers, what created all this incredible beauty? And then here's these humans, there's no God. Well, who made that? Hello? And it's not about the religious, biblical God that has weird personality traits and issues. It's about source. It's about spirit, and we're all a part of it. It's a mandala, and it's beautiful, and it's like we totally got this. I mean, it's laughable. But it's so easy to forget, and I'm right there with people who have their moments of oh my God, are we going to be okay? And what does not being okay mean? Death, extinction? We're eternal beings. We're so attached to these bodies and just being here, and we're in a creation with lots of universes, lots of planets, lots of star systems, and if we don't make it here, we're going to wake up somewhere else. This was a favorite quote of my partner. Why be afraid of death? You always wake up somewhere. We should only be concerned about being controlled. That is the thing that we need to watch out for. And we can command, our sovereignty. And these are the times, to really just take charge, let's not be so distracted. And it doesn't take much. And it actually is really fun, the teamwork. I did a ceremony. We did a ceremony in Wisconsin. I flew there, with the Star Knowledge Conference. And they were just really there to help me. And it's a lot of hard work sometimes, but it's just filled with fun, Lots of jobs I have, which are heavy labor in the sun all day, hours and hours and hours. If you're around the right people, it's just laughter. Being wilderness expedition, 30 below, in the snow, if you're laughing and making fun of it all because you can't even believe that your feet are about to fall off, miracles happen. So, I mean, we have to understand that we generate all sorts of amazing things all the time. And we can also create all sorts of things that get in our way and our blockages and obstacles. And we can, you know, feed the vampires and feed the parasites. But, you know, and the thing is, we have to also know that somebody else and where they're going is not necessarily where we're going, you know, and we're at different rate phases and we're at different levels. But it doesn't mean one's better or lesser. It's just, you know, we are where we are. But eventually it leads to the same, you know, it's that whole, you know, analogy of the rivers and the water running to the big ocean.
With everything that I know about you and everything that I've listened to and watched over the years, one thing I've never actually found out, are you a contactee?
I did just have that strong experience when I was a kid about... basically, it was a very luminous group, and just to make a long story short, it was really about, they gave me a viewfinder and they showed me like the positive time. This is why I've been about timelines my whole life and stargates and everything, and knowing my mission, because it was kind of told to me, but it was more like, you know it, don't lose it kind of thing. And it was, you know, about the positive timeline and moving into just this really beautiful world. And it's just like, this is happening. And just to be careful of all these things that are going to try and take me away and you know, and project, you know, things on me, you know, that I'm this, I'm that, I'm crazy, and not, and just to stay strong, because if we start to believe in those things, you know, and that was going to be impossible. I'm too like rebellious and just like, you know, F you, you know, who do you think you are?
Sure.
But I also have a huge heart, and, you know, I'll always come around and say, okay, let's really talk if you're into it, you know, but if you're a bully and you're just here to be, you know, a problem, you know, go away, and when you're ready, come back. But yeah, I would say that was somewhat of a contact experience, and, you know, and it just really had to do with preparation, and lots, you know, it has always been about preparation. And I was told, and I've known this, you know, I've been on this mission thousands and thousands of years. Actually, you know, I've had a huge fracture in my heart, you know, before even incarnating here, and my heart was broken, you know, seeing the state of this planet, and I came here thousands, you know, from the very beginning, you know, to help this planet. And it's always been my mission. And I have it all on tape. Somebody's telling me this, and I'm like, oh my God, somebody, you know, is actually seeing this. You know, the things that you think are just in your imagination. And it's just like, yes. And, you know, I don't know.
Well, let me ask you this, Laura. In that viewfinder that you looked in of the future, was it good, or was it
amazing?
Bad? It was beautiful. Amazing. Okay.
And they even said the future is, you know, going to be so beautiful. You're helping, you know, to create it, and it's just, you know, they said something about like tears of joy. And after 20 years of like misery and just, oh my God, I was like, I know this is not what they were talking about. And so,
well, you and I are on the same page there.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, we're totally on the same page.
I can tell we're on the same page about so much, and this is the best interview. I've just, God.
It was, somebody just tweeted, we need a whole week of Laura, not just one night.
Oh, that's so awesome.
Well, it's kind of true, and I can't wait to get you back. And tonight we did 100 subjects. We'll come back and just do 2. And really peel back the layers. And I just have to say thank you for coming on tonight. I had a great time.
Me too.
Yeah, you and I will be hanging out, Contact in the Desert, which, you know what's funny? It's coming up. It's in May, and we're already, you know, March is next week. March, April, Contact in the Desert, May. It's coming up very soon. I can't wait to hang out with you.
Oh, I can't wait either. And just so wonderful to be here. And just thank you for just all that you do, and just really for all your support, and just making me feel, you know, just really welcomed, and you know, I just feel like you can really see me, and it's grounding and it's refreshing. So thank you.
No, thank you so much. And now you're an official Fade or Not. Okay. Now, your Twitter handle is Laura Eisenhower, correct?
I'm not on Twitter. I'm only on Facebook.
So you have an imposter on Twitter that we have been tweeting all night?
Are you serious?
Yeah, I'm looking at it right here, at Laura Eisenhower. Okay, all of you Fade or Nots, that is not Laura Eisenhower. You are not on Twitter, officially.
Yeah, when you said something about Twitter, I was like, but then I just figured, Facebook and Twitter talk, and it was not a big deal. I'm going to have to investigate this because that freaks me out a little bit.
Yeah, you've got an imposter out there. We all do. I've got a few. So there you go. It's part of this social media life of ours.
Yeah. It's a badge of honor. You're really on a mission if you have imposters. And,
right. That's the only way to look at it. They don't imposter people that don't matter. Always remember that. Thank you so much, Laura. You have a great night, and we'll talk to you next week.
Okay. Oh, great. Bye-bye.
Thank you so much. Bye-bye.
Thank you so much.
Laura Eisenhower, everybody. That's what I'm talking. What a great conversation. And I got to tell you, my brain hurts. That was a lot of stuff. I see that, Les. It is a closed account. Everybody's been tweeting her all night. I don't know if I did at the beginning of the show, but thank you, Laura. Again, we went in every direction, but that is part of what is great about this show. It is just an open-ended conversation. And we start where we start, we end where we end. With that, I'm going to take a quick break because you know what? My brain hurts. I feel smart already. Thank you, Laura. What a dynamic conversation. Dynamic woman. All right, I'm your host, Jimmy Church. This is Fade to Black, and I'll be back in a few right after this.
Way out here, we listen to Jimmy Church.
You're listening to Fade to Black.
¿Qué tal, mis amigos? Yo soy Mario Carson, el tiburón, y los invito para que escuchen a mi buen amigo Jimmy Church Radio. ¡Claro que sí!
Oi, I'm Reese Evans. You're listening to Jimmy Church. This is Revolution. The revolution will not be televised. The revolution is on radio. Ciao.
Yeah, Fade to Black. Bespoke radio for the masses, only on the Game Changer Network. I'm your host, Jimmy Church. Thank you, Laura Eisenhower. Looking here about the Twitter imposter. They just got bombed, that Twitter account. But if it's a closed account, do they see all of these tweets? I don't know. I mean, how does that work? I have no idea, but isn't that interesting? 1 million subjects tonight. One of the things about doing this show where I don't have questions laid out in front of me, I don't have anything predetermined, there is no agenda, and it's one of the things I love about this show. And somebody had tweeted earlier, I just want to go and have a conversation with Laura sometime. Well, you know what? That's exactly what you guys did tonight. It was just a conversation. And I got to tell you, it was nearly perfect, and I don't even know what to say. It was just one of those nights, and that was magical. Now, the question is, how many times are you going to listen to this? You have to. You got to go back. I think I am. How many times are you going to go back and listen to this one? That was an amazing, amazing night here on Fade to Black. Tomorrow night, special guest will be announced tomorrow during the day. We're going to sneak up on everybody and make that announcement. And then, of course, Thursday, don't forget, I want everybody to go and get registered for Contact in the Desert. Go over to jimmychurchradio.com, click on the link, and get entered in the contest. You have today and tomorrow. Those will be the last 2 days. And then we will take off and announce everything on Thursday. So please, go over to Contact in the Desert at jimmychurchradio.com. Click, go to the Jimmy Church page. Very simple. Get registered. We're going to do the drawings tomorrow. And that's pretty much it, because we'll do the announcement on Thursday, Fader night. Okay? So I want everybody to have a great night. Any questions or comments, Jimmy at jimmychurchradio.com. That's all you got to do. And with that, I am out of here. What a night tonight. Thank you so much, Fadernauts. Laura, is Laura an official Fadernaut now? Is she an official Fadernaut? I think so. Thank you, Laura Eisenhower. Great night. I've said it enough. Fade to Black's executive producers, Rita Kamarian. Show's produced by Hilton J. Paul, Mark D. Kovar, LJ3, Renee, and Jonas. Announcers are Steve Harder, Gene Vito, and Mark D. Kovar. Faded by Dale. Webmaster is Method of Signaling. Music by Doug Aldrich. Intro by Spaceboy, spaceboymusic.com. Fade to Black is produced by KJCR for the Game Changer Network. I am your host, Jimmy Church. This is Bespoke Radio for the masses. Special announcement on tomorrow's guest. Just watch Twitter, Facebook, and we'll get that going. We want to do it late. There's reasons for everything. Everybody be safe. See ya.